welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides for this deep dive of Paul Verhoeven's 1987 social satire, trans-humanist, buddy cop action flick, Robocop.
Yeah, Paul Verhoeven. How about that guy? He's kind of a weirdie, right?
Oh, yeah. All Dutch people are weird. Just how it is. I think he's just completely fascinating. I haven't seen every movie. Like, I haven't seen Showgirls, but he has a kind of a trilogy of sci-fi movies that I hold in high regard. This one, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers.
Yeah, they're all pretty well-regarded movies.
Yeah, and so I think he's kind of the cat's pajamas as far as like satirical science fiction with a social commentary aspect.
Yeah, and I was watching a little documentary, The Making of Robocop, and it was interesting to me that the two writers had come together on this and kind of melded their ideas from ultimately it was just kind of like robot science fiction.
Yeah.
And
it's like the original script, it's like Robot Cop and Super Cop.
Yeah.
And they jammed the two together into Robocop.
Yeah, the original Robot Cop situation was just going to be, he was going to be just a robot. And then the other script was he was a human cop that had sustained an injury and had like a prosthetic or something that made him a super cop.
Yeah. It becomes a complete idea when you put those two together. Like,
yeah,
I was really, I always assume, I guess because I'm a fan of his, I've always kind of given Verhoeven more credit in the concept than maybe was owed, because listening to the two writers, most of it was in the text.
Yeah, almost everything.
The social satire was really in the text, and I think it's more like Verhoeven took the script and focused on things and illuminated them, but it was already written out.
And they searched for an American director. They offered it to almost everybody who was decent, and it got turned down mostly because the name is just silly. Like, people said this sounds like a kids movie, but you have a lot of violence, and so it's just there's no market for this.
Yeah.
And then Paul Verhoeven read it, and he said he threw the script on the floor in his office, and his wife actually picked it up and read it and said, "You need to read deeper into this. There's layers to this movie."
Yeah, she's like, it's really violent, and it has all of the issues that you like to talk about, like the social issues.
Yeah,
and so thanks to wives. A lot of times wives save us from ourselves in our bad decisions.
For sure. And I think this movie was really I remember it just being huge in theaters and kind of in society. Yeah. It was pretty successful. It was budgeted for $13.7 million, and it box officed for $53.4.
So actually, it was budgeted for 10, and it went over by 3. Which there's interesting stories about that too. How they played with the budget and then asked the studio for more money. Basically, they shot everything they needed to up to everything but Murphy's death scene. And so you need that. It's a key moment in the film, and so
spoilers.
No, they shot all the stop motion stuff and all the news reports and all of the things that if they didn't get them done, the studio wasn't going to give them more money to do, and they left a really key scene when it came time to ask for more money, and they're like, we need to shoot this, and we need $3 million to do it.
So the studio had to decide whether it was going to flush 10 mil or give 3 mil more.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, very shrewd filmmaking.
Yeah. It's really playing the game. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I also really enjoyed the idea that when they were searching for an actor, they needed someone who's tall but also not large, because they needed someone that could fit in the super bulky robot costume. So they had to have a thin guy.
Yeah, because that is an interesting part. The studio wanted Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Paul Verhoeven Dutchman wanted Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
And it looks like they actually did some testing with Michael Ironside.
Yeah, they really, Michael Ironside was kind of a backup guy.
Yeah, because I've seen shots of him kind of like getting fitted for early versions of the suit or whatever. But he was also too bulky. So you needed a skinny guy, but with a good mouth and chin.
Yeah. And so, they got Peter Weller, and so he ended up doing a really good job. So it turned out all right.
Hot off of Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, I knew I recognized him from somewhere. I've watched Buckaroo Banzai a few times. Yeah. It's a really interesting movie. I'm surprised we haven't done it on this podcast.
It's always been on the list, I think, as something we'll get to.
Yeah, it's definitely a cult classic.
Sort of cyberpunk. It's surprising it didn't make it into this list. But.
Yeah, because it's not a top 10, let's be real.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and roll for initiative, and then we'll get back to this stuff.
Okay.
All right. 15.
I got a 19.
Oh, wow. Geez. You've won like several in a row.
The dice, I'm on a hot streak. Yeah. Okay. So number 1, NPR did a story on All Things Considered on the rise of the morally dubious podcaster.
Oh, shit. Is that us?
It's not us.
Because we don't make money.
No. Us. I felt there was a part in the story that reflected us.
Okay.
So basically, the morally dubious podcaster, this is it's become a character trope that's showing up in fiction a lot. And it's generally more, they're the true crime sort of podcaster, and they do sort of like shady stuff. They're either plagiarizing real journalists, or they are doing weird things to get in bed with actual serial killers. And I just thought the story was funny because we do a podcast. But the term where I felt like we were targeted a little bit was they talked about yap and slap. And specifically,
Yap and slap.
People who sound off into a microphone in their basements and throw the results on the internet.
Huh.
And I was like, oh, we are yap and slappers, to be sure.
Really? I mean, yeah.
We don't edit.
That's true. We don't really edit. I go back and listen through for errors, and I tighten up the transitions. But that's my editing. It doesn't take me long.
Yeah. So yap, listen for listen for errors, and slap.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, whatever.
The thing
if we are
is,
yap and slappers, so be it.
Yeah, whatever. I took a course in college about journalism, and basically what you're talking about is just the modern version of yellow journalism.
Yes, exactly.
But we're not yellow at all.
No.
This is just
opinion bordering on criticism.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an editorial column. But mostly positive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting, though. So, all right, my first story. We brought this up last episode about something that was upcoming, but it's out now. The first episode of House of the Dragon is out. It's been released. Episode 1 was the biggest TV show premiere of 2022.
It was a pain in the ass to get that shit to stream. Like, I had to reload it over and over again before it finally played.
I was in Vegas, so I saw it the day after the first day, and so I saw it right after, so I had no problems. But interestingly, it was HBO's biggest show premiere ever. And so, I mean, HBO's had some huge premieres. And so, not surprisingly, even before episode 2 is released, they have renewed it for season 2. I think when this drops in a couple of days, episode 2 will be out. But before episode 2 was out, they have already renewed it. Yeah. We kind of knew they were going to renew it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they've committed to making this the House of the Dragon book into a complete show, but
yeah, I think the plan has always been to make it through the Dance of Dragons, which I don't know, that's at least 3 seasons of TV
for sure.
Probably more if you want to draw it out, and why wouldn't they? Yeah,
and if divers aren't super Westerosi history nerds,
I know you don't study fictional history.
This is going to be multi-generational. Don't count on being a show about just Rhaenyra and Daemon. You know, it will eventually move beyond them chronologically into successive generations of Targaryens.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is probably the most intriguing, exciting part of the Targaryen story.
Probably, yeah.
But there's almost 200 years between when they're starting this show and when the original Game of Thrones started.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of space that they can explore. I sort of had this knee jerk. It's like, well, why didn't they start it with Aegon's conquest? And it's like, well, because, this is the juicier storyline. Yeah. And if you want to keep going, you can, and you can flash back to Aegon if you want to. They have a lot. Sure. They have a lot of options.
So who would you have play Aegon?
Aegon the Conqueror?
Yeah.
God, I have a picture in my head.
And why does he look exactly like Geralt of Rivia?
Is that who you picture?
Yeah, that's my mental image.
See, I think
the white hair really helps.
I think of Henry Cavill as being more of a Rhaegar later. You know what I mean? Jon's dad. Like, that's kind of... I picture Aegon as being older, which he's not described that way necessarily, but I kind of see like a Bill Nighy kind of guy in my head.
Huh.
But he wouldn't be that old at the time of the conquest.
No.
He just reigned for a long time, him and his sisters. So you kind of need multi-generations. That's who I picture as the old man on the Iron Throne, not who I picture as conquering.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's what I got for my first news point. What do you got?
My number 2 is dinosaur tracks from around 113 million years ago have been revealed in Dinosaur Valley State Park in Texas.
That's pretty cool.
Due to the severe drought conditions. So yay, climate change.
Yeah, there's also a bunch of stuff in the Mediterranean and stuff that are as water levels reduce, they're exposing things.
Yeah, so I, for one, welcome the collapse of our planet's ecosystem and all of the cool science it will reveal in the tribulation times before we all die.
Yeah.
Dinosaur tracks are cool. Let's see. The tracks belong to an Archocanthosaurus, and the dinosaur would stand as an adult about 15 feet tall and weigh close to 7 tons. And it's just something cool. It's cool science nerd stuff, and got to make the bright side of this sinking ship we're on called Earth.
Yeah, I mean, I like birds, and dinosaurs are just giant birds.
There you go.
So there you go.
Okay, what's your number 2 story?
Okay, so I'm always keeping everybody current on the D&D news. So Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, I guess if we're going through parent companies, did their announcement. They had a big online event and whatnot, and they announced their plans for 2023 and moving beyond. And a lot of this stuff was kind of new or not new if you've been really following closely, but the 50th anniversary of D&D is coming up. And so everyone expected they're going to launch 6th edition D&D.
Okay.
And that makes sense because when this comes out, or in 2024, which is the 50th anniversary, 5th edition will be 10 years old.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem like that long ago, but time flies when you're having fun.
And 5th edition has become, we talked about this last episode a little bit, sort of the standard for most role-playing games.
Yeah, because the open license, people just use the 5e rule set for every other thing they want to do. So D&D is doing the same thing. They're using the 5e rule set continuously. They're not going to make a quote-unquote 6th edition. They're calling it 1 D&D. They're going to just continue this. It's going to be how it's going to be seamless. This is essentially an evergreen permanent edition. All your old Splat books, campaign guides and all that for 5th edition will work.
What does that stand for, Splat?
Oh, I don't know, but it's just sort of a term that they use when you're saying, like, when you have your setting books, your campaign guides, your side appendix books and stuff. They'll all work with the new D&D 1 stuff. And the only thing you're going to really have to buy is a new player's handbook because they're revising. It's going to be the same system, but they're revising like race and background system pretty heavily. They've released some playtest rules on that stuff. And so those are going to be heavily revised. Background is actually going to play a huge part because instead of getting stat modifiers from your race, you're going to get them from your background. So like if you're a dwarven acolyte, you won't be tough guy. You'll be wise. But if you're like an elven soldier, you might get strength as your buff because you have that training. So a lot more is going to be hinging on your background rather than sort of broad strokes heritage based increases.
As a longtime proponent of monstrous races, and always trying to play things that my dungeon master would be like, you can't play that, it's an evil race, and I was like, I don't care. I'm going to be a lizard man. You know, like whatever. This is well past. I was thinking like this in the 80s, folks. So I'm glad the rest of D&D is catching up with me.
Yeah, it should be pretty cool. That's sort of the new core books are going to be big, and I don't have a problem buying a new core book set if the rest of my books stay good.
Yeah.
And then another huge thing they talked about is a new digital tool suite. They bought D&D Beyond, which was a licensed product that for an online tabletop and character management system. They bought it, and so they're going to be launching something called D&D Digital, which will have all the virtual tools, like you can manage your characters, you can roll dice, you can play a distance, like Zoom style or whatever with people, or you can use it at your table, and like the DM can like damage happens and it just goes on your character sheet.
Oh yeah,
like
I need
digital this. So everybody will have a iPad or tablet or whatever or laptop. The only thing that I see the problem with this virtual tools is it will undoubtedly have a subscription cost.
Yeah.
Probably it'll fall on me. It'll probably be the DM, and I probably have to buy the deluxe package so I can have like X amount of people in my campaigns.
Yeah, but I bet we all probably have to, I mean, assuming I get to play this game, I think we all have to probably have the app.
Probably.
And, the app at least has a one-time fee, I bet.
I don't think so. D&D Beyond is free right now, and it's freemium. You can, like, let's say that you own nothing, and I've bought all the books and everything. I have bought all the packages, the add-on modules. I can add you to my campaign, and then you get access to everything that I use for my campaign. But if you're just using it on your own, you can't use Jack. I mean, you can make a very basic character.
Interesting. I've wanted something like this for a long time because I just have the hardest time keeping track of all of that shit. And then at some point, well down the line, I discover things that I haven't been using, or I have bonuses and things like this that I don't know where they come from.
Oh, yeah. This will auto-calculate all your bonuses. You're like, I got this class feature, and it increased X skill. Yeah. So now my skill reflects it, and it's accurate because it's all digital.
Yeah, so this is good news for me, whose character sheets become just a mess at some point that are indecipherable from even myself, who wrote them out.
Yeah, I'm a wonk. I really like paper notebooks and stuff, but I'll probably switch to this if it's not too bad. I don't want to pay more than $10 a month for this. But
a monthly fee it
sucks, but that's how they make their money.
A one-time buy-in is better, right?
Well, the current model sucks balls on D&D Beyond. I hope they don't use it where you have to buy every book digitally. So if I own, like Spelljammer, which recently came out, I have to then buy digital Spelljammer.
The same price, probably like $50 or whatever.
They're a little cheaper. Like it might be like $30. That really jacks the price, having to buy everything twice. It actually, if I'm using D&D Digital for my main campaign vehicle, I probably would consider not buying the physical book.
So this is a way, if as a DM you could ameliorate some of your costs, is requiring players to buy in.
Oh yeah, require and be like, all right, Lisa, you have to buy this book or you don't get to play.
But we're all grown-ups now. Like,
That's true.
It's one thing if you pull that, like, when you're, in middle school playing it and be like, I don't have allowance money to do this.
Oh, yeah.
And
As
whatever.
adults, it's a lot easier
if you're like, I need you to get the book for this campaign. Like, I went and bought the Tal'Dorei book when we started playing that.
That's true. I think it's not too bad when you're all adults and you can be like, let's have everyone buy one book.
Yeah.
And share it.
That's totally reasonable, and you'd have to be kind of a dickhead to balk at that.
Yeah, I mean, if your group is gonna know if you have a job or if you're
I know. If you are sort of the bum in the group, everyone will just carry you along.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You can have one bum.
All right, so that's my announcement or my news piece about the next edition of D&D.
Okay, so my next piece is it got announced that a King Kong live action series is in early development at Disney+. The series will be a serialized drama that would explore Kong's origins as well as the mysteries of his home, Skull Island. It's based off of the novel King Kong, written by Miriam C. Cooper, and the novelization sequel by artist Joe DeVito called Kong of Skull Island, I think that book is called. And this is interesting because we already have a Kong out in the field right now over across the street at Warner Brothers.
Sure.
As part of the Monsterverse we just watched this year, Godzilla vs. Kong.
There's an axe. It's awesome.
This is a different Kong with a different mythology that's more tied to the original, not to the original movie, but to the novelization of the original movie, which is in public domain.
Oh my God. Okay.
But
I'm skeptical.
You're skeptical. I'm going to pitch it to you like this because I've read the books that they're talking about, but then I've also read basically all of the comic book series from Boom Studios that elaborates on this world.
Okay.
This is Pacific Islander Game of Thrones with gorillas instead of dragons.
Huh. It's
courtly intrigue. It's plots between tribes. It's very much a human drama. Like it will be a show like Vikings or Game of Thrones, something like that. Like that sort of low tech fantasy-ish, but not heavy magic. But it's got dinosaurs and giant gorillas.
Okay. I mean, if it's more like a human drama, I could probably be more interested
because
in it.
The Kongs don't talk. They're just big.
Yeah.
They're just big apes, and the tribes people they raise them and they train them and stuff, and so it's much more of a sort of.
So it is like Rhaenyra riding her dragon.
Totally. It's dinosaurs fighting giant gorillas, and it's gonna have to be basically all Pacific Islanders.
Okay.
And
I hope they don't fuck that up and cast a bunch of white people.
I think we're past that. I don't really think that's an option anymore. Like everyone kind of understands that you can't. It
was like watching Prey. It had to all be right.
I thought of Prey because Prey kind of it does this. It's all set. It was in the Cherokee tribe, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so it's an entirely Native American cast. They even went the extra mile of doing
Comanche.
The white It's Comanche.
Yeah, you're right. Except for the white trappers, those guys were dicks.
And a Marco Polo explorer could wash up on Skull Island. You can bring in a white person
going there.
Yeah. But it really
the Dutch.
They were always the Dutch and East India companies all around in the Pacific. Yeah. So sure, other people, but the core cast has got to be all Pacific Islanders. And this was a sort of thing where I was like, well, that's weird because we already have a Kong, and like you said, he's got a big battle axe, and I like him. And they're making a movie right now in Australia about that.
Can
Kong.
we get him like with a Godzilla skull helmet?
I think we kind of ended where they were sort of on the same team.
Okay.
He already has the Godzilla plate axe. It's a little offensive if he comes out.
It's culturally insensitive.
I know. Godzilla would be like, I thought we were cool. You come out here in a whole Godzilla skin outfit.
I'd be all about that.
Yeah, so I started out like you skeptical on this, and then I remembered, I read all of this stuff, so I know what it is.
So are those books on Audible? Can they be had?
It's kind of the actual Kong of Skull Island that Joe DeVito wrote is more or less a picture book.
Oh, okay.
Because he wrote it, I think, with the idea that I'm going to make a movie out of this.
Sure.
And he was in collaboration with the Miriam C. Cooper estate, and he's been wanting this for a long time, and Disney finally kind of took the bait, and we're in development. That doesn't mean it's going to get made.
Oh man!
So let's see if
don't get my hopes up.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I went from skeptical to interested in this project.
Yeah, it's not House of the Dragon, it's House of the Kong.
House of the Kong. Yep.
I'm down.
That's how I'll pitch it to people. They're like, well, I'm not interested in Kongs. It's like, what do you think about Hawaiian Game of Thrones?
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so my last piece is technology related.
Okay.
Soon there will be no dead spaces anywhere with your cell phone. You'll go everywhere and you'll have service. And this is not just the pie in the sky. SpaceX and their Starlink system has already made internet capable wherever you can put down a little mini dish. But they have teamed up with the worst cell phone company, T-Mobile, and they're going to be offering a service coming soon, TM, that is basically anywhere you go, your phone will immediately search for tower signal and regular cell phone stuff. But if it can't find it, instead of giving you the 0 bars or the no service, it immediately goes to searching for satellite signal. And it uses the SpaceX Starlink satellite network to provide you with voice and text service. So right now they're not saying that you'll have data everywhere, but they're saying you will never not have voice and text, which is the next step. That seems like a logical innovation.
Yeah.
And hopefully eventually we're at the point where you can just get data everywhere. But yeah, I think this is actually pretty cool. I like the idea of never having a dead spot. Like you hear about crazy things where people run out of gas in the middle of nowhere and they're just screwed. This should hopefully prevent that.
What's old Lord Elon getting out of this? Because I feel he must be listening to our phone calls or doing something to make this work.
Well, I mean, he gets customers. The idea is that so they don't have to. SpaceX doesn't have a customer service wing. Okay. So T-Mobile has all of that. They have they have all the customer service stuff. They're really just providing a back end technology support system, like a skeleton for T-Mobile to be able to advertise, never not have service, and then SpaceX gets money. It's probably on the similar model to how Google Fi works, where literally Google pays the provider, whoever tower and data they use, as you use it. So I assume SpaceX, this should be just a pure revenue positive for them. Yeah. I don't think that there's going to be much in the way of data mining your stuff.
Not from them.
Because it's only voice and text. Yeah. You already are, super data mined.
I know.
And advertised. But it seems like a way to monetize SpaceX so he can, afford his Mars projects.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I do like the idea of having service when I'm camping so I can play video games in the woods.
Well, I'm not going to go to T-Mobile. That's never going to happen. Yeah. I had T-Mobile. They're terrible.
And T-Mobile is the same. So there's like the two cell phone platforms essentially, and Verizon and
what, AT&T, or is it
Verizon? Because two of them use one type of service and then two of them use the other one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know
that
either.
Stuff. I don't really need to.
Yeah, And Google Fi makes that all irrelevant. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, I Google Fi.
Yeah. So
it's cheaper and it's more efficient.
And so Google's already tracking everything you do.
Yeah,
so what if Musk kind of piggybacks on there and gets some more of your data? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's totally fine with
me. We're in a surveillance state all the time. You just have to accept that. I'm
just not important enough to care about.
Until you are.
Until I am. I don't think that's going to happen.
No. No one does until the alphabet guys show up at your door.
Like, why is he Googling North American green hummingbirds?
Let's look into that.
Weird. You got any more?
Nope. That was the end of my stories.
All right. So what's our podcast fuel for the day?
Okay. Our podcast fuel for today from our pals at Lewitt Brewing here in Vancouver, Washington. It's Robot Overlord. It's a hazy IPA. This is actually the second beer they've done called Robot Overlord. Mm-hmm. This is the hazy. The original pre-2018 Robot Overlord was a double IPA, but they've adapted to the times. We're into New England IPAs now, and they say they have good copy, so I'll read it. We did not listen. They have risen up to appease our new Robot Overlord. We created a hazy IPA. We came bearing gifts of citrus, sweet melon, and tropical fruit notes in each pint. Our best malts were sacrificed to create a full-bodied ale with smooth finish. This brew is to show our new rulers our value and worth. Long live 10001110101 triple exclamation point.
Whatever that means.
I don't know. I don't speak binary.
Yeah. I mean, this is a pretty good beer. I'll give you that. I like it. It's smooth. It's a hazy that's decent. It's not probably the best hazy I've ever had, but it's definitely very good. Yeah,
Lewitt's solid. This is the quality level I expect from Lewitt, which is good. I've never had a Lewitt where I was like, ugh. You know, that may seem like damning with faint praise, but I think just being good all the time is actually a pretty good model.
And in the Pacific Northwest, being always good is that's big because breweries come and go in the region. Like just there's a flash in the pan. Someone will lose all their money on their startup because they just weren't good. They were just mediocre. This is better than that. This has staying power. Lewitt's been around for years.
Yeah. So I mean, just as an example of the other thing, I was up in Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con last weekend, and I went to the Pine Box with Diver Corey, and we're having beers. And there was some brewery, I can't remember the name, and I won't slander them, but it was one I'd never heard of, and I was like, "Who are these guys? Are they any good?" And he's like, "I don't know." So I ordered it. It wasn't very good. And probably the next time I see that name, I probably just won't order it because I'll be like, I had one and it wasn't good. And, I wasted one of, 60 taps or whatever. I picked one of the duds.
Yeah. I mean, what did it say on your Beer Pokemon app?
Oh, you want me to?
No, you don't pull it up. But did you check it and was it rated well, that beer?
No, because the internet service at the Pine Box was terrible.
So we need that Elon Musk net.
Oh, so I could have got on and rated it.
Yeah.
And then I have the whole thing. It's like, oh, it's a startup brewery. Am I going to just take a dump on them? I have to give an honest criticism, but I also don't want to discourage. I want them to get better. So it's like 3 stars.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
You gave them a pity 3?
I didn't rate them at all because I didn't have internet.
Because you didn't have internet.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back and get into Robocop.
Welcome back, divers. Let's dive into Robocop, 1987, directed by Paul Verhoeven.
This is a really predictive movie because it's set in Detroit, and it sets it like a hellscape, and I think that happened.
I think Detroit actually now is much nicer than it was in the 1980s. There's significant gentrification in parts of Detroit.
People were able to go in and buy up properties and stuff for really value, like people looking to stretch their buck,
Which is a way that this movie is predictive because
They're talking about a new city.
Yeah, the crux of the movie is the idea of essentially using crime to devalue Detroit to the point that you can buy it all up, knock it down, and build a new, better city.
Called Delta City.
Where Omni Consumer Products owns everything. We're kind of getting into plot right away.
I'm talking about setting, really.
Yeah. I'm very excited to talk about this movie because this is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Okay.
I was obsessed with this movie before it even came out, and it was like I wanted to see it so bad, and there was lots of things. I didn't get to see it in the theater because it was R-rated, and I was like 9.
Yeah.
And then when it came out on video, my parents were very iffy about letting me watch it because of how brutally violent it is.
It is very violent.
And so by the time I actually got to watch it the first time, I wasn't allowed to watch like the first 20 minutes of the movie. I had to start from the time when Robocop is introduced, and I could only watch it from there on. And then eventually, I mean, I just had the tape in my room, so I back it all the way to the beginning and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But this was a movie that I was obsessed with as a child.
I saw it a few times on like cable premium channel or whatever. I don't know which one my dad had at his place because I was bouncing back and forth between parents. And I saw it a few times there because it was just in regular rotation.
Yeah.
And it was one that it was always worth watching because it had really good one-liners. It had kind of fun gunplay, like stuff I thought was entertaining. But I definitely was not obsessed with this movie. I was way more of a swords and sorcery type. I was more like I would rather watch Red Sonja than Robocop when I was younger.
That's a bad choice.
No,
I mean,
Red Sonja, that's a dope movie. Or Krull.
You know, I love all of that stuff too, and Beastmaster.
Lady Hawk.
Yeah.
Beastmaster.
We actually, I mean, not to. While we were Rucker Hauer's come up a bit now.
Lady Hawk is a must.
We need to watch Lady Hawk. Yeah,
but we need to do a series of fantasy movies
for sure. Yeah. Okay, but let's stick to RoboCop because
we love this dystopian cyberpunk stuff, and this version of Detroit is pretty gnarly.
Yeah, and RoboCop's so weird in that there's one great movie, and then it had 2 terrible sequels. A remake that's also pretty bad. A live action.
The second one wasn't that bad. The second RoboCop. The remake was terrible.
I'll take the remake over either sequel.
Oh wow!
And I'll take probably the animated cartoon show over most of the other RoboCop supplementary material. I don't remember the live action TV show very well, but I don't think it was very good. There was a lot of RoboCop.
And there was like a cartoon that wasn't a RoboCop cartoon, but there were like cops that had like, there was like a robotic dog, and there was a guy with an extendo handcuff thing. Very much inspired by this.
It's Cops was just the name of that show, and it stood for something. It was an acronym.
Yeah,
and it was an American like toy line cartoon, but it
reminded me of Silver Hawks.
Yes, because it has that sort of Rankin Bass animation style.
Yeah.
It was like one of those things where it was an American toy line, and then they sent it to Japan. Make a cartoon about this, and they made a pretty slick anime.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I loved Cops too. That's probably the best RoboCop spinoff.
Yeah, yeah, the imitator.
Okay, the first thing I noticed getting back into the movie is we don't have an opening crawl prologue thing. Both
1987 seems to be where they stopped doing pre-credits.
Yeah, I think we've moved into a new phase of cinema. Like, because you always talk about how all these movies open up with a long credit sequence.
Yeah.
Not RoboCop. Title card, movie. So this is a much more modern movie.
We do get a somewhat traditional intro there after, where you have a helicopter intro flying over. You get a cityscape with some dramatic footage.
Literally the only footage of actual Detroit in the whole movie, I think.
Kind of reminded me of Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, the helicopter fly over the city.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Lost Boys had that too.
Yeah, and what was that other vampire movie that we saw? That
had a helicopter?
Yeah, there's definitely
Or
another
a
one.
helicopter shot. Drones have really made this stuff.
Drones made this simple. Every movie, it's no longer novel.
Yeah. This used to be very expensive to fly a helicopter around and shoot that stuff.
Yeah.
Drones have made it like you strap an eye. Like, I thought that, not to go too far back into Prey, which we already brought up, there's some really beautiful drone shots just of the scenery and stuff in Prey. And I was just like, man, you can do so much with drones that would have been impossible.
Wouldn't surprise me if that whole movie was shot on iPhone.
Yeah.
Would have been fine.
Yeah, it would look amazing. Okay. I'm excited about this stuff. Let's get it. We go immediately to
You're
a
going to be
news
the tour guide here because I'm way less excited. Not to say that I dislike this movie, but I was never what you would call a super enthusiast.
Okay, you just keep the train on the tracks and I'll point out the window.
All right.
We open up on a news report.
And this news stuff, they're talking about nuclear war, a president going to space, this weird, Jensen Yamaha Sport Heart transplant where they're literally advertising cyberware on TV. I thought that was really cool when I was young.
Yeah, it's very good world building. This is better world building than a bunch of text.
This is show, not tell.
It is. And this movie is it's tight as a drum. Everything they show you is used at some point in the movie. Nothing is wasted. So they're priming us about like the civil unrest and what society is like, and about that cybernetic replacements are common now. Like we're just learning what the flavor of this world is. And it's like we're assuming everything, how things were in the 1980s. We have just continued down that road, going So
when does this movie happen?
The movie is supposed to take place in 2043.
Okay. So they still drive shitty cars and
the Ford Taurus, baby.
Yeah. A Ford Taurus that's rattle can flat black.
This was actually how the Ford Taurus was unveiled. This was a new car.
Oh, in this movie?
Yes. And it was supposed
like ass.
The Ford Taurus was quite futuristic at the time. And that's why it's featured so heavily, because, it's set in Detroit, and Ford
probably gave them like a fleet of them.
Yeah. Because this was a way of showing off their new car that they was about to roll out, basically.
You hear the 4-cylinder roar in it.
Right. It is so funny. It's like, that's I drove a Ford Taurus for a while. It was a good car until it died. Like every Ford I've owned.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have had several Fords and they were great until they stopped working completely.
And it's like at 100,000 miles, it's like, and then the engine exploded. Just spectacularly and without warning.
Yeah, I am now firmly on the Japanese car train for that reason. But anyway, so I really like that they kind of set up that basically this is like a crime hellscape. And so they have done the ultimate Republican move and outsourced government function. They no longer, the city no longer is providing policing. It is now run by the megacorp, Omni Consumer Products.
Because everything is better when you add a for-profit motive, right?
Yeah.
If you make the police a for-profit entity, run it like a business, we're just going to get better service. That just completely makes sense to rational
just like
people.
Prisons, if they get paid by people in beds, no one ever gets out and people get locked up for longer.
OCP also runs prisons. They talk about it. OCP, we're getting a little bit ahead, but Omni Consumer Products has made their fortunes by delving into markets that were traditionally considered non-profit. So OCP runs prisons, schools, military contracting, hospitals. They're turning all social services into for-profit entities.
Yeah, basically they just think that there's money to be had anywhere if you can run a business well.
Robocop is set in a libertarian paradise.
Yeah, it's perfect.
The key point in the news is we learn about the police killing. There's been 31 police officers that were killed. Clarence Bodiger, the unofficial crime boss of old Detroit, is the prime suspect. And there was 3 police officers that were gunned down, and one of them is in critical condition. Frank Fredrickson is his name, and they give a very insincere "good luck, Frank," and that's the end of the news segment.
Yeah, the news is all really fake seeming, intentionally. Like it's supposed to be like plastic news.
Yeah, and it's made all the more real by using like Lisa Gibbons, and I forget who the male anchor is, also played by a real news anchor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like in a modern day movie, like if you have like CNN correspondents,
and actually have Anderson Cooper in there. Yeah, totally. It's totally like that. And this is all lifted from The Dark Knight Returns comic book, which its run was in 1986. It literally, the final issue of The Dark Knight Returns came out like 2 months before they started production on this movie. They're very much the writer, one of the writers, and I'll talk more about them at the end. He said that he was inspired by modern existentialist comic books, and there's a lot of that in this movie.
I remember like the first Terminator movie was coming out before this was in production, and the writers they made a point of not seeing Terminator until they were finished with their final revisions of the script, because they didn't want Terminator to influence them, because they knew they would love it.
That's smart. And I think Terminator influenced it visually.
I can see that, for sure. But the writing definitely is different.
I think the writing, is influenced by the last 2 movies that we've covered, Escape from New York and Blade Runner. And the writers have cited Blade Runner specifically. And
I would personally say that it seems to have more DNA in common with Escape from New York.
Yeah, because of the satire.
And just the look, it feels that way. Like it just has that same vibe.
Yeah.
It's just like gritty and dirty. Not to say that Blade Runner is clean, but Blade Runner feels slick and noir.
Yeah, and Blade Runner has all the neon,
super classy in a way. There's no class here. This is all feels like fake, and everything seems like a put on.
Yeah. No, I see. I think that's a good observation. It's a very different view of the future, where it's like things have gotten shittier. Blade Runner was shittier too, but with a veneer.
Yeah.
Like they've been things added on. This is just imagining things have been taken away.
Yeah.
It's like we're just dismantling Detroit.
There's nothing good here. There's no digital pets that are really cool. It's just shitty stuff.
Just shitty. Detroit just sucks. And I mean, I grew up, and I've been to Detroit, so it's also partially true, but I grew up thinking Detroit was among the scariest places in the world.
Huh. Okay, so let's get into this. Basically, kind of get started where we have, after the news and all of that, we've got Murphy transferring into the Detroit Police Department, and he's just this he looks like an 80s yuppie. He's got feathered hair, he's tall and skinny, and he's transferring in, and they're like, go get your armor and suit up.
Yeah, he's transferring from Metro South, which we find out is a much cushier position.
Yeah.
He's transferring into Metro West, and they're like, we work for a living down here, Murphy. And he's gone to a much tougher precinct, and it wasn't his choice. OCP moved him since they took over, they're moving people around.
Yeah. There's like a locker room scene with cops, and it has this deal where like they come in and they're cleaning out the locker of the cop that died, and people are talking about striking, and the boss comes in and lectures them and stuff.
Yeah, so basically morale is terrible because they've had 31 officers killed, and they're talking about going on strike. And Murphy's just sort of walking in and trying to find his place in it. And Sergeant Reed comes in while the strike talk is going on to clean out Fredrickson's locker because he didn't make it. And morale it's very, very low. But Reed is like, we can't strike. We're cops, not plumbers. We have to provide this service. He's trying desperately to keep this thing running when it's just not working.
He's part of the problem, in my opinion. You can't. Without collective action, there's no progress, and he is an agent of the machine at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're labor people, so let's talk about this. So the bosses, in this case, OCP, have weaponized his sense of responsibility. Yeah, because he feels he's a good cop, right? And he feels this responsibility to provide this service. They're taking away from him, and he's just trying to make it work because of that sense of duty.
Yeah.
His men are dying. So he's actually, even though he's doing what feels morally right, he's failing them.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. It's a mixed gender locker room. This is something Paul Verhoeven, he uses again in Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Because he said that he thought in the future we'd be a post-gender society, and that these ideas about gender roles just wouldn't exist anymore. And I think it's pretty forward thinking.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're fully there, but yeah, it's trending in that direction for sure.
It is kind of trending.
You don't generally see mixed gender. You see genderless bathrooms, not so much locker rooms.
Yeah,
but I think the bathrooms are a good indicator.
Yeah, and so the idea is they're all cops. Mm-hmm. And there's no thought about this is a lady cop and this is a man cop. Just cops. Yeah. Gender's no longer a factor, which leads us to our next scene. After Murphy gets suited up, Reed calls him out on the floor, and we meet his new partner, Ann Lewis. Mm-hmm. And we meet her while she is abusing a detainee.
Yeah, she's kicking the ass of a suspect, and basically kind of demonstrating just tough guy tactics there in the police station. And then they meet up, and they're like getting in their sick Ford Taurus Cruiser, and he's like, I like to drive.
Yeah, she says, I should probably drive till you know what you're doing. And he's like, I drive when I'm breaking in a new partner. And they immediately have this great rapport that is just bros.
Sure.
Like it's not there's no weird romance between them. They just are colleagues, and I like it. It's something very different from the media of the time in the 80s.
Sure. Yeah, in other media, they would have made this a romance plot.
For sure, yeah. And I think they kind of went that way in the later movies.
Yeah.
And this one is more pure. Like, it's more to the...
Was Verhoeven on the later movies?
No.
Okay.
And even, I think, in Robocop 3, I don't even think it's Peter Weller anymore. I think they got it doesn't matter who we put in the suit. Just put anyone in there.
It's probably cheaper than Peter Weller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's how it is with your star. Their contract goes up every movie.
Yeah. All right. So then it kind of cuts to an executive board meeting at OCP, and they're talking about this new crime fighting unit called the ED-209,
right?
Which is like a big ass gnarly bipedal robot with guns for arms.
Yeah, we get a lot of exposition in the elevator between the junior executives. The 209 project is over budget, and our guy Bob Morton, who's kind of our main yuppie, he's played by Miguel Ferrer. I have a hard time with that name. He was assigned to have the backup project. He has his Robocop project, and this is what we're going to implement if the ED-209 project doesn't get off the ground. This whole thing is basically, this meeting they're going into is going to tell him his work has been for nothing. Because if ED-209 works, then we don't need your project. So he's very upset going into the meeting.
Yeah, and I think that this guy immediately oozes. I don't know what they were going for, but he oozes unlikability.
Oh yeah,
like I don't know what kind of person you are if you're like, oh yeah, I really like that shit-eating yuppie shark guy.
I mean, I like him as a movie scumbag. I think he's a complicated, layered character. I I don't like anyone at OCP, including the old man, who they want us to think the old man is kind of good.
Yeah.
But we'll see at the end of this scene that he's just a completely callous scumbag with no regard for human life too. It's everyone at OCP is terrible. The most likable people are still villains.
Yeah.
So as you said, they bring out Ed 209, and it's this awesome two-legged mech that comes out. It's very 1980s anime. Like you can the legs look like particular Robocop mech or Robotech mechs. And, and it's got this cool sort of killer whale shaped head and big gun arms.
When I was a kid, I thought that this looked so cool and high tech. I thought it was just rad. But watching it in the movie, it was almost like herky jerky, like it was claymation.
Oh yeah, it's definitely stop motion animation.
It was not smooth stop motion. It almost looked like a toy. Like I praised the modeling that they did in Blade Runner. This was modeling that I will not praise.
Interesting.
It was definitely less professionally done. It did not feel good like the modeling in Blade Runner.
So Phil Tippett is one of the most highly regarded stop motion animators. This is really like peak stop motion animated. You're talking about the limitation of the art form.
So
right?
the stop motion animation itself wasn't terrible. The model wasn't very good.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, the stop motion anime, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You're not going to get better than that. But the model itself just seemed kind of like
a toy.
If you could make anything and you made that, it's just, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty iconic, though.
I mean, it's a bulbous oval in the center and on top of legs with gun arms.
You're not alone, because I've listened to a few Robocop podcasts.
There's entire podcasts or just episodes?
Episodes. Episodes of film podcasts. I listened to the Cinephiles, and I listened to Blank Check. I listened to a few Robocop episodes. And if I repeat opinions from those podcasts and you listen to them, divers, it's just it's a tribute. It's because I'm also a fan of those podcasts.
We're just yap and slap, so don't take it too...
I'm not a morally dubious podcaster taking credit for other journalists' work.
I watch YouTube reviews and stuff to prep me for talking about stuff.
Yeah, and I find things where I agree with people and where I don't agree with people.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Cinephiles were kind of on your camp where they didn't think Ed 209 held up. Maybe I've got my rose-colored glasses on, and I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely do.
Okay. So
they're in this board meeting.
Dick Jones asks, he's the head of the 209 project, and he asks a junior executive, Mr. Kenny, to come up and demonstrate the Ed 209. He hands him a Desert Eagle, and he says, "Use your gun in a threatening manner." And he points it at Dick Jones, and Dick Jones says, "Point it at Ed 209." Ed 209 doesn't like guns being pointed at him. And he gives him 20 seconds to comply. Drop the weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply. He throws it on the ground, and it just doesn't register. The Ed 209
keeps counting down,
thinks he's still armed, and then just annihilates this guy in the middle of this board meeting.
Shoots him with fully automatic machine gun, just blows him away, and the body flies up in the air and lands on the Delta City model, the model of the new city that's going to replace Detroit. Just the amount of fake blood and the torn clothes and just the body limply laid over the model. This was pure cheese. This was like Toxic Avenger levels of cheese.
Yeah. So you watched it, you streamed it, right? Like you got it on Amazon. So you watched the theatrical cut.
Actually, I watched it on HBO.
Oh, did you? Okay. Do you know if it was the director's cut or the theatrical cut?
I don't know.
Okay. Because I have the 20th anniversary DVD. And
I would assume mine was not the special version because it wasn't advertised as anything special.
Yeah. So the extended cut, all of these scenes are longer and more violent.
Nice.
And so
I say that tongue in cheek.
yeah. So this scene, this was at the time the world record for the most squibs. Like
Wow.
he is just shot to pieces. Like so much blood comes out of the guy.
One thing I did like, even though it was kind of cheesy, is I liked how Ed 209 like growled at him.
This movie won an Oscar for sound editing.
I thought it was pretty cool how the meat machine was aggro, and it was like, you know, like,
Yeah.
it was angry.
Yeah, the Ed 209 makes a few animal sounds because later in the movie, when it gets stuck on its back and can't get up, it makes pig sounds. And so this was, I believe, the first movie to win the Academy Award for sound editing.
Interesting.
And the sound editing is really good, as you would expect when you get an award invented for you.
Sure.
It's awesome. So people say that this scene here is the litmus test of whether or not you're going to like this movie. Mm-hmm. Because after Kenny has been murdered by this machine, someone says, somebody want to call a goddamn paramedic? If you laugh when he says that, you're going to like this movie. And if you don't laugh, this is not a movie for you.
Yeah, I said, how about a coroner?
That's a laugh. That counts. You took it as humor, which is what you're supposed to do.
Sure.
If you find it funny that this guy got killed, then you're going to be able to rock with this movie.
I was just like thinking, like, what company continues the meeting with a corpse on the table next to them? Because they continue the meeting.
They do. And the old man kind of calls Dick over, and he's like, Dick, I'm very disappointed in you. Yeah. He doesn't, because he's talking about, we're supposed to break ground on Delta City in 6 months, and this is a big delay. And like, he's just talking about how much money this is going to cost him. Mm-hmm. He has no regard for junior executives at all. They're just cannon fodder.
Sure.
If one dies in a meeting, that's just not a big deal to the old man, who is, again, supposed to be kind of the good guy of all of these. He's
supposed to be the moral compass of the company.
And that shows you exactly where the moral compass of the company is.
And that's when yuppie number one, Bob Morton, decides it's time to chime in. He's like, well, I have a project that's on target and will work.
Yeah.
And of course, the old man is like, oh, tell me about it. And Dick Jones is like, no, don't talk to this guy. Literally stands in front of him, and the old man's like, no, I want to hear about this.
He says, get your team together. I want a presentation in 20 minutes. I don't think we'll have Kenny scraped off the floor by the time Bob is in there doing his presentation.
No, 20 minutes.
And Bob drops a key piece of information there where he says that we've already moved. We've placed prime candidates according to risk factor. Earlier, Murphy just transferred into the more dangerous department. And with no understanding, I was like, I don't know, OCP moved me over here. They've already, okay, this guy's a cowboy. Put him over here where he's likely to get killed. And, they're already sort of playing chess with these guys, sort of. They know who is going to get themselves in situations where they might become a prime candidate for a Robocop program, and Murphy's one of the guys. And they're ready to roll on Robocop in 90 days is kind of their plan.
Yeah, and I kind of wrote down an impression of Bob Morton. I said, this guy's an ass kisser and a shitbird.
Yep.
And he took advantage to that.
He took advantage of his colleague getting killed dramatically as a career advancement opportunity.
Yep.
It's the 80s, baby. That's the time. That's how.
It's just a morally bankrupt time, is what you're saying.
I'm saying there was this yuppie culture, and there's more movies than this, like the movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas.
Psycho.
Yeah, American Psycho. Yeah. These people are never portrayed as heroes. Like, generally when people make movies about them, you're supposed to be like, oh, this person's morally reprehensible. Mm-hmm. But there's a sort of morally reprehensible person that sees a Bob Morton and was like, he's going places in the world.
He's
They're
an
like,
up-and-comer.
yeah, he's got that killer instinct. Yeah. Because even when Johnson and Morton are in the elevator, Johnson kind of gives the, too bad about Kenny, huh? And Bob says, that's life in the big city.
Yeah.
Is it? Like, is it to be expected you might get gunned down by a killer robot? I guess it's 2043.
Yeah. Just gun-wielding robots.
Yeah.
So then it kind of cuts over to Murphy and Lewis, and Murphy is spinning his pistol like a cowboy.
Yeah.
Like some kind of dweeb.
Yeah. His son likes this TV superhero called TJ Laser, and TJ Laser always spins his gun after he zaps a bad guy. And so Murphy copies the show to impress his son. But also Murphy is kind of a cowboy.
It's kind of a TJ Laser.
He is. I mean, he's someone who, spoiler, will die spectacularly very soon. So there's a reason why he was a prime candidate from the start.
And so basically him and Lewis go after Clarence Boddicker.
Yeah.
And his
their coffee
gang.
break is interrupted because of a bank robbery, and they go straight into a high-speed chase. This movie is pretty fast-paced. It's not a dally around movie.
Yeah, it went quickly. And then so this time Lewis is driving and Murphy's in the passenger side.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Give me your gun."
Yeah, give me your piece.
And he leans out the window and he's doing two gun mojo like some kind of movie star, not like a cop at all. And they're just rolling around and just straight up shooting at these guys in their van.
Yeah, and they're kind of like they kick open the back door of the van, and the cops aren't there because the cops have pulled up alongside.
Yeah.
Like Lewis is a cowboy too. Like they're both total cowboys. She could have just as easily ended up Robocop, actually.
Oh yeah.
And Murphy does manage to shoot one of them, Bobby, in the leg. He's their safe cracker. And Clarence was already not a big fan of Bobby's because he burned up all the money when he blew the safe.
Yeah.
And so Clarence throws Bobby out the back of the van as a distraction. And
right onto the windshield of the
police
cruiser.
car.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I said as a kid, "Can you fly, Bobby?" Like I said that all the time. I thought that was about the coldest shit I've ever heard at 9 years old.
Yeah, I don't know. I never really I always thought pretty poorly of this gang of bad guys. I thought Clarence was kind of a loser and his guys were kind of losers, mostly because they're laughing all the time.
Yeah.
They're just always laughing.
I realized watching it, they're the prototypes of the gang in The Crow.
Yeah, they're basically just like hyenas.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's interesting. It's interesting seeing how this movie is building on those pieces of Escape from New York and Blade Runner before it, and then movies after, like The Crow, are building off of this movie. Like this is a cornerstone in this dystopian sort of milieu. This is one of the big bricks.
Sure, I think it's pretty important.
Yeah.
They basically roll up on this like abandoned factory. It looks like something straight out of Gotham City.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, there's no backup. No big deal. We'll just go in on our own. And not only do we not have backup, let's go in and let's split up."
Yeah.
And they go their own way.
Yeah, they call in to headquarters to get backup. They're down 31 people, or 32 because Fredrickson died. They're short on bodies. Backup will be a long time. But we got two cowboys. They're into it. And like you said, they go two different directions. Murphy says, "Stay in touch." And they just go exploring, and they're going to take on this whole gang by themselves.
Very, very good tactics.
It will certainly go well for both of them.
Yes. So first of all, Lewis encounters a guy and just gets taken out. No problem. Not killed, but knocked down and fall and knocked out. And he's just like, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, she catches him peeing, and instead of optimizing her advantage on him, he just rolls better in this situation. And he gets her to look at his dick, basically, so that he gets the jump on her, even though she had the drop on him.
So at this point, I'm asking myself, these cops have been in like an active, ongoing gunfight with these guys. Mm-hmm. Why didn't she just take him out? There's clearly no law and order here. Killing a suspect is obviously not going to get them in trouble.
You're right. That's a good observation, actually, because rather than trying to arrest him, I mean,
if she was taking him out,
Jack Reacher, shoot him in the back of the head.
Oh, yeah, man. When's season 2 of Reacher coming out?
I don't know.
That was a good show.
But yeah, like imagine Jack Reacher goes in there. The whole gang is dead because Jack Reacher doesn't try to arrest people. He just murders. They were a bad guy and I murdered them.
Yeah,
and he's like, God damn it, Reacher, you can't just go in and murder people. He's like, well, they're bad.
I don't know. I just did. They're done. Yeah, so I don't know why she like rolls up on the guy and then gets tricked into looking at his dick and then gets thrown down a thing. Like, why didn't she just shoot him and move on?
I don't know. But she didn't because she's good. If she went in there and shot him in the back of the head, we wouldn't think that she's a good person. We would think that she maybe is a badass, but not a good person. And we should think she's a good person.
So then we get a little more Murphy. He's creeping through, and he comes upon some people, and he uses a line that will come back to us. Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Yeah. So Murphy does take out one goon.
They try to ambush him, and he just starts going at him.
Yeah. And he tries to arrest the second guy, Emil. But then the rest of the gang shows up and they have the drop on Murphy.
Yeah, and so they basically they just start shooting him, and this is another gratuitous and cheesy shooting scene, just like the Ed 209. They shoot his hand off, etc. And the interesting thing to me is that they're using shotguns, but the wounds in Murphy are not shotgun wounds. They're pretty small. Yeah.
No, I don't think realism is ever of interest to Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah.
He's this is because Paul Verhoeven says Robocop is the American Jesus. It's like this is his crucifixion scene. Like
sure.
And it's more clear in the director's cut where he really, like, you see him with his arms splayed out and he really gets in the pose.
Like the Crow who goes into the crucifixion pose, the whole deal.
Yeah, or Superman in Man of Steel or whatever. That
was a good movie.
These filmmakers, everyone likes to use their Jesus symbol because when you're marketing to Americans, whether you're secular or not, Jesus, we read it. We pick up on those things subconsciously at least. And this scene is much longer and much more gratuitous in the director's cut.
And the whole time they're blowing him away, the gang is laughing like a pack of hyenas.
And Lewis basically, she can't really do anything about it. She's behind a fence and she just sort of watches helplessly.
Yeah. And then we get a hospital scene where he's we thought he was dead, but he's not. And
he's not yet.
He's having these flashbacks of his life, like sees his wife and his son, and then also flashback to his murder, all this stuff, and it's pretty grim.
And it's so these were this movie is filmed primarily in Dallas, Texas. This is real Dallas ER staff, and it's not particularly directed. Verhoeven sort of set them loose and were like, do what you would do in this situation. The cop comes in and he's in critical condition. How would you try to save his life? And Verhoeven and cinematographer Joost Ficano, they shoot it from the table, from Murphy's perspective. And so it's very like you're watching these people all around you, and then you get close-ups of his eyes all dilated. And
it's like that Metallica video.
Yeah. For one? Is that what you think? Yeah. It is. And so the writer, Neumeier, he said that Paul Verhoeven is a visceralist. He compared him against Kubrick. Kubrick is a visualist. He wants to show you things and kind of paint a picture.
Yeah.
Whereas Verhoeven wants to put you into it and make you feel the stuff, make you feel like you're on an operating gurney, having them try to resuscitate you instead of showing it to you, make you feel it. And it's very almost like documentary style, like cinema verite. Like we're in the action through all of this stuff.
Yeah, there are some things in there like that are clearly from his perspective that are early computer graphics overlay stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I like how it's all kind of pixelated almost.
Well, in the next
scene. Yeah, in the next scene. As it transitions.
Yeah, because it goes, he flatlines, they pronounce him dead, and then the screen goes to black, and we've got a good 5 or 10 seconds of black. And Verhoeven wanted to go even longer. He wanted to do a full 45 seconds. He wanted people to feel like the movie was over before the lights come back on and we start getting the robo POV like that you're talking about, the digitized stuff.
Yeah, and I really like that. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it reminded me of some of the early graphic stuff that was done in Escape from New York. Yeah. And I thought that it took it up a notch. And then there was some graphic stuff that was done in Blade Runner, and it took it up a notch. You know, yeah. So it was really cool. Like
watching it as the special effects progress. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I assume since we're watching these movies in chronological order, this will continue.
Oh yeah. It'd be a shame if it went backwards.
How did Hackers not make our list?
Hackers is a pretty fun movie.
Yeah,
I just think
legit.
Hackers, you know, like some of the other movies that we've already covered, you know, like Johnny Mnemonic and stuff, that are key cyberpunk films, but aren't going to be as highly rated.
Yeah.
You know, and so they just don't quite make the cut. You know, I'm surprised Terminator didn't make the list.
Yeah.
You know, so
good.
there's some good movies that just weren't rated quite as highly.
Terminator's better than Escape from New York. Not better than Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I agree with you. I kind of want to make I don't think it's as important to the genre as Escape from New York.
Pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah. But I do think it's a better film. I think James Cameron is, he's like a Spielberg sort of thing where even his bad movies are good movies.
Yeah, they're good enough.
Yeah. So anyways, let's not get too far off of that. We have a whole kind of montage as Robocop comes online and records some audio video stuff and then goes offline again. And we basically watch his whole construction from his point of view.
Yeah, they're building him into Robocop. And we hear this thing about with Morton. They're like, oh, we were able to save his arm. And Morton's like, no, take it off.
Yeah.
We don't need the arm.
I thought we agreed on total cybernetic replacement. Lose the arm.
And they're like, ugh.
Yeah, and it's good. You really get the feeling for the engineers and scientists who they're not corporate minded, right? They're science minded, which is almost as evil a lot of the time.
Sometimes.
But like they're kind of about like, what can we do? Like this is just exciting science for them. They're not concerned with the corporate application of it.
And in this montage thing, we get displayed on the screen in like the green digital text, the 3 prime directives.
Right.
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law, and then prime directive 4, classify.
Yeah.
Very mysterious.
It is very mysterious. And so this is, again, where I'm talking about like how nothing is wasted. So we go through this montage where we watch Robocop being built, and then we have the unveiling where they literally pull the tarp off of him.
Yeah.
And then we take him over to the police precinct, and we walk him in, and they slow the reveal. Like you hear him like stomping in there, like his robo steps. Yeah. You see him through the window. You get glances or like glimpses of him through fences and stuff. But they hold off on showing you the full Robocop essentially as long as possible. Yeah. And it's just like, it's so good at building the anticipation. And then they basically show us everything you need to know about how Robocop works.
Yeah.
Like you get the rudimentary paste that he eats, and it's like baby food. We get that moment. We get the moment where his targeting system is explained, how he can record audio, video, and play it back. We get all of his abilities demonstrated in a way
He has a super strength to him.
Yeah,
He
and
can crush things.
none of it feels like a data dump. It all feels like we're observing it. You know, it doesn't feel like they're, you know, how some movies like shove data down your throat. This movie has you like asking like what else can he do? Like you want the reveal of the Robocop stuff.
And when he walks into the precinct, he looks badass and he looks massive.
Yeah.
And one of the things one of the writers was saying was it's supposed to be like a knight in shining armor.
Yeah. It's they pulled their influences, like they pulled from Fritz Lang's Metropolis, the android from that, The Day the Earth Stood Still. There's some Terminator, there's some Judge Dredd, there's some Hajime Sorayama robot people paintings. Like they're pulling all these cool, like desperate influences to make this just absolute iconic. Like Robocop got it in one. This is like a perfect superhero design.
It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's a costume and it's practical effects. It looks a lot better than the stop motion.
Yeah.
N&DDD
And Peter Weller, he worked with a mime coach, and he started out like he had a more fluid movement style, and then it didn't work in the suit. He couldn't move like he had planned on.
Yeah.
And so the more staccato movement was improvised. Him and the coach took a day, like they stopped filming for a day and came up with how can you move in the suit and how are you going to move? And they decided on everything you do is deliberate, and you like, you know, it's almost like
it's like you do the robot.
You
dance.
do the robot dance, yeah.
Yeah.
But it works in the suit. It works, and like the way his
you
whole body
feel like
changes.
the pistons are moving him.
Yeah.
You know, like his leg moves forward and then it steps down, and then he
And
takes
it's not-
another step.
It's not that it's slow, but it is deliberate.
It's very intentional. Yeah, the
Yeah.
physical acting is really good.
Yeah.
And the sound design where they actually put sounds to his footfalls and all that stuff, that sound editing is pretty huge.
That's why they got an Academy Award.
Yeah.
When you get a category invented for you, you did pretty good. That's how that goes.
The filming, I will say, they managed to make him look massive, even though Peter Weller isn't that big of a dude.
Yeah.
They just made Robocop look huge.
And the next thing is we see him on the gun range.
Yeah.
And
everyone else is like, all the other cops are like shooting at the targets. And he has a machine pistol hand cannon.
Yeah, so it's a modified Beretta M93R, and it's called the Auto 9. So it's just that it's an actual thing that Beretta manufactures, and then they added cyber shit to it.
Yeah.
To make it.
Just like all of these cyberpunk movies. Just
Yeah.
add more shit.
And it fires 3-round bursts.
Sure.
So it's not a legal gun in the United States. Like,
No.
I think they had to import it from Israel or something, and it had to go through quite a bit of clearance to get to America. But it's thoroughly impressive. The 3-round bursts make it very intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the military with weapons with a 3-round burst capability. It's pretty cool. You pull the trigger once and it's like, brah, brah.
Yeah, he destroys his target. Like, his grouping is good. It's like he hits the face target, the chest target, and then just starts dismembering. Like, he takes
the
off
limbs.
the arms and then the head.
And I think that is a callback to him getting dismembered.
It is, and there's another callback before he holsters the weapon in his thigh. He spins it. And
The
Lewis,
thigh holster, actually, I gotta say, when I was a kid, that blew me away. Because I'd been playing role-playing games like TMNT and Rifts and all that, and I was like, I want a cyber holster. They literally in Rifts made a cyber holster after the Robocop movie.
yeah, that's
And if you didn't have a
That's the
cyber
Rifts way.
holster, you're a loser.
anything else is just inefficient.
Yeah, it can't
Like,
be taken away from you. It's like you didn't need that space anyway.
yeah. It's so odd, like the whole thing. And so this is a good time to talk about the reason why this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and why it has continued to be enjoyable for me from the time I was 9 years old to now, is it functions on several different levels, and it functions exceptionally on all of them. Sure. It absolutely is just a superhero movie if you want it to be that, and it's just full of cool superhero shit.
I think it also works really for you on a subconscious level because it's also a Frankenstein movie.
It is also a Frankenstein movie, and it's a social commentary. And as I got more into politics, the movie gave me new levels that I didn't perceive as a little kid.
And if the divers don't know, Nick has a Frankenstein tattoo. So
I love Frankensteins. That's why I liked Blade Runner 2. It also had a Frankenstein.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first thing I thought when they were like putting him together. I was like, oh, it's a Frankenstein movie. Mm-hmm. It's like a knight in shining armor with a Frankenstein inside.
He's a Frankenstein superhero. And I like both of those things. And it's got a cultural commentary that can make me feel like, and this is a smart movie. I'm good for watching it.
I'm a good human.
I'm also learning.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. And the other cops at the range are like, whoa, they are blown away by him.
Yeah.
And so basically Robocop is assigned to Metro West, and then there's some media stuff like showing him doing like this.
Oh, we skipped over his montage of fighting crime.
Yeah, so they have the efficient there's all the discussion of his crime fighting, and we get a demonstration of him on the job, just destroying every criminal. It's awesome.
Yeah, he stops a liquor store robbery. This guy comes in to rob this little mom and pop liquor store, and Robocop comes in and just clotheslines the guy and throws him through the cooler. And
just destroys so much property.
He does, thank you for your cooperation. And then just leaves.
Just leaves the guy there.
You get the impression Robocop just destroys, and then someone has to come along and pick up the people afterwards. He goes and he stops a sexual assault in one of the most iconic scenes in the movie, where these two guys are going to assault this lady. Robocop arrives, and one tries to take the girl hostage, and he shoots him in the dick through her skirt.
Your move, creep.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, iconic moment, and the lady comes over and she's so thankful, and he's like, "Madam, you have suffered an emotional shock. I will notify a rape crisis center." Yeah. And he just has no empathy.
There are some really iconic lines. Like there's always like TVs going on, and there's this show going on, and there's like, "I'd buy that for $1."
Yeah, the TV show is called "It's Not My Problem."
I don't know how many times I said that as a kid.
Oh, it's so sleazy, but also just perfectly iconic. Like, and that's a piece. I think that's a piece from this film that has carried on in the cyberpunk genre,
having TV shows and advertisements,
and the really sleazy TV shows. Like this idea that in this dystopian future, the main distraction is like morally reprehensible entertainment that's constantly shoved down your throat.
So TikTok.
I mean, TikTok has a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah, that's true. That's
it's not entirely morally reprehensible. No. I don't think we have a thing. I guess the sort of Real Housewives, Kardashian, that's probably more the really vapid, gross programming that's shoved down people's throats.
Sure. In
the real world. But this... my point is, like in like the cyberpunk game and stuff, like this sort of media is all around, and I think it came from Robocop.
Yeah, it is definitely has left its mark on the genre. And so then there's like this hostage situation that's terrorism. There's a city council member or something.
Yeah,
he's got the mayor held captive.
He's already killed one of the hostages. He wants a recount. And he wants to get his job back, however the recount turns out.
Yeah, it's like definitely there. That's definitely gonna happen, right? Yeah, no.
I mean, we're not in real life. We're in a situation that's not that dissimilar to this, right?
Well,
where we have a president that's still claiming to have won his election. This is not very far outside of the January 6th sort of mentality. This
Sure.
like, I lost the election, but I didn't win the election.
And they're like, yeah, we'll give you a new car and blah blah blah. And he's like, and it's gotta have cruise control. What about cruise control?
Yeah. So it goes really fast, it gets really shitty gas mileage.
Yeah. I was just like, okay. And then Robocop just walks up and he just walks in. The other cop's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And he goes in and they have like a cool thermographic vision.
How do you think they did that?
I don't know, animation. I have no idea.
Literally had them put on bodysuits with the thermal imaging patterns on them. The colors, shot it.
Like in the dark with or whatever.
That's all it is. It's just all those people in spandex.
Dang, that turned out really good.
It's completely practical, and it's just a short little scene, so you just accept it because
your eyes can't linger on it.
Yeah, you're immersed in it, right? And you believe he has thermal imaging, and so you don't think about this isn't real thermal imaging. It just works so good. It's such a good practical workaround. It's like the neon or the fluorescent models in Escape from New York being the CG grid.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's an entirely practical analog thing that makes your mind think you're looking at something digital.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's really cool. And then he kind of it's almost a little anticlimactic because he like bursts through a wall like Kool-Aid Man and grabs him and then punches him out the window.
Yeah. This is another Dark Knight lift because this is that moment that Batman does this same thing where he grabs the guy, the hostage taker, through the wall. And then Zack Snyder used it in BVS too. That same moment, Batman grabs the guy through the wall.
It's a lot more believable for Superman or Robocop than Batman, who can't really grab through a wall.
Thinking about believability is really not... You're not helping yourself in any of these movies.
That's true. That's true. And so he's basically hailed a hero for punching a guy out the window.
Everyone likes Robocop.
And then I love they switch. There's a commercial comes on. I like how they have random commercials for the game Nukem. And they're like, it's a family like playing this game. And I want to play that game.
Yeah, Nukem is like a very much more intense version of Battleship, right? And he's like, instead of like, you sank my Battleship, it's like, Pakistan is amassing troops on my border. And then the dad goes, that's it. No more military aid for you. Yeah. I
wonder if anybody ever made a Nukem game.
They should, right? Like, why is there not a Nukem that we got a tabletop game?
It'd be fun. And then it switches to executives talking shit in the bathroom.
Oh yeah,
we got Morton and he's like talking shit about Dick.
Yeah, he is a senior executive now. He's moved from junior to senior, and so he has the key to the executive washroom.
Yeah, and
moving up.
This is some like stereotypical old lion versus young lion, like. Some challenging the old ways, and he basically says that Dick is bullshit.
Right. Yeah, he's old. We're young. That guy's a pussy.
Yeah.
And such
a gendered insult.
It is.
Not
and what's
cool.
wrong? Yeah. The guy why pussy is not synonymous with weak people, divers. So much of this scene is shot from in the stall. Behind the
you just see
the
Dick's,
pants,
feet and stuff.
Yeah, and this is again. So we talked about Verhoeven as a visceralist. He puts you in the stall where Dick Jones is taking a deuce, behind Dick Jones, like the camera is under his ass.
Yeah,
and he's just sitting there listening to this young buck talk shit about him, and when he comes out, the bathroom clears out because everyone is afraid of him except for Bob.
Yeah.
The other little hyena that is schmoozing with Bob, literally puts his dick away while still peeing and pees his pants a little bit to get out of there.
And then like Dick rolls up and he's like giving him the business, and he grabs Bob by the hair.
Oh,
could you imagine being at work and some dude just walks up and grabs you by the hair?
And he hasn't washed his hands.
Yeah.
I've seen everything he's done since he's come out of the toilet, and he has not washed his hands. He grabbed his hair seductively
with his ass
wiping hand. It's very humiliating. Bob is not happy. He's
so, I mean, if that's you, if someone grabs you by the hair, I mean, you kind of have to hit him at that point, right? Like, they've already assaulted you. You've got to get him off of you.
Yeah, and they just, like, but they're doing this thing where they're very in each other's faces and not backing down, but not hitting.
Not taking to the next level.
Not taking it to the next level.
It's like middle school boys, like, pushing each other and, like, bumping chests.
And so this whole scene, to be a little meta, is, I guess, inspired by a scene that's in Lawrence of Arabia that Miguel Ferreira, his father, Jose Ferreira, is in that scene in that movie, Lawrence of Arabia.
Wow.
And so this is, like, there's a similar moment between two guys where the guy touches the other guy's cheek and whatever, and his dad was in that scene. So this is like a meta
it's
film.
It's very meta.
Meta film nerd moment.
Tim Burton would approve.
Tim Burton, yeah. That's a lot. I was like, I saw that movie. You know who? Denis Villeneuve is a big Lawrence of Arabia fan, obviously, if you watch Dune. So, yeah, a lot of people would approve of that. I didn't get it till I heard about it.
Okay.
But, you know, I should probably watch Lawrence of Arabia.
And so then we cut to...
Real quick. The key thing that Bob says is basically he had a guaranteed military contract with spare parts for 25 years on the Ed 209 program. And who cares if it worked or not?
Yeah.
Because the idea was we're going to roll these things out in Detroit, and once they've proved their effectiveness, we're going to sell them to the American military.
Yeah.
That's his whole game plan. And Bob has fucked the whole thing up with introducing Robocop to the mix.
I mean, Dick was not wrong as far from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
Also from a human cost perspective.
I don't know. I mean, if I'm thinking of selling to the American military, a program where I can take dead soldiers and make them into super soldiers, this just works good. This is a cycle that you can do infinitely, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Lawsuits of people's families and all that.
Once you work for
you sign
you sign a waiver. Yeah. Johnson talked about this earlier. It's like he signed the waiver and he was declared dead. We can do whatever we want with him. So when OCP becomes Militech, you know, from Cyberpunk, and they're running the military contracting.
Yeah.
Any new soldiers in Militech are signing that waiver. Their corpse doesn't belong to them. They can just go right into this recycling machine of where you make robo soldiers and put them right back out.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty brutal, but it makes sense.
It's diabolical, right? Like it's horrible, but conceivable. It's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, much of the movie is not realistic to distract you from the things that are extremely realistic.
It's hyper realistic.
Yeah, because everything about how OCP operates and the morality of these people is entirely realistic. This is really how those corporations run.
Yeah, the set dressing, the cyberpunk set dressing is in the genre and as a whole, not just this movie, is really just it's like fictional ripples from real human motivations.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why it resonates with so many people.
Yeah. The sci-fi stuff is just there to make it palatable to people, like, because you're not going to watch a documentary about why corporations are bad, but you can.
I mean, you can. There's a lot of them on Netflix.
Yeah, but that's only for wonks.
That's true.
Everyone watches Robocop, or not everyone. Only people that think getting shot in a boardroom is funny watch Robocop.
Yeah, everyone doesn't watch Robocop, and so then we cut to a Robocop maintenance scene. Mm-hmm. He's in the chair, etc. He's experiencing his downtime. He has a nightmare.
Yeah, he starts reliving his, or not his, but Murphy's death scene. and his minders, because it's nighttime, they're kind of a little asleep at the wheel, and so they don't immediately notice.
Yeah, he's just thrashing around. No big deal. His
EQ,
vital signs are off.
They're all over the place. On their screens, they're literally getting like digitized video of Clarence Bodiger like shooting Officer Murphy and stuff, and it's like no one notices until Robocop gets out of the chair.
Yeah, they're reading the newspaper.
Yeah, because that's how you work. That's when you're on graveyard shift watching the robot while it sleeps. You fuck around to do other stuff. That's how that would work.
Yeah.
And Robocop, he's freaked out. He's having like a little PTSD moment.
Yeah.
And he starts storming out of there, and Officer Lewis gets her first shot at being alone with him. And she goes up and presses him a little bit, asks him his name.
Calls him Murphy.
Yeah, she says, "Murphy, it's you, right?" And he's like, "I have to go. There is a crime happening." And he exits, and the OCP people are pissed at Lewis because the cops aren't really supposed to interact with RoboCop.
Yeah, and so he goes looking for crime. Like he that's his trauma response is to go fight crime. He just defaults to his programming.
Mm-hmm. And he goes out, and our man Emil is out robbing the gas station.
And we get again a repeat of that line: "Dead or alive, you're coming with me."
Yeah, and that triggers Emil. He's like, he recognizes that
I killed you.
Yeah, which RoboCop, and then he starts recording. You see it come up. He records that little bit about it's like, we killed you, and RoboCop he's having issues with this. Emil starts to get away, drives off with the gas pump, I think, still plugged into his motorcycle, which gets gas everywhere. Throws back a lighter or a cigarette.
I think.
The gas station explodes spectacularly. RoboCop kind of snaps out of it,
and he just walks out of the fire like a badass.
Iconic. This is such a cool scene.
I do want to shout out to the college student in the gas station doing math. Same deal, college student in the gas station in Fight Club. This is a trope. It
is a trope. So, and this is Paul Verhoeven says that the guy in the gas station with his glasses studying plane geometry represented him as a young man.
Oh, okay.
So this is like that's a young me when I was in college, and so yeah, shouts to the young man who's just trying to get his degree.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the gas station exploding with RoboCop walking out of the fire is pretty iconic. It looks really, really cool. And
it's literally his actual rebirth moment.
Yeah.
Right. If we're doing our
our Green Knight comparison.
Yeah.
When the screen turned upside down.
Yeah. Or I say that it's a phoenix coming from the ashes, but. So we're mixing the phoenix and the Christ metaphor, but this is the moment as Murphy starts coming back.
Yeah.
And so he comes out and he shoots Emil's motorcycle. Emil takes a fall off the bike that you probably don't walk away from.
Yeah.
And RoboCop comes up and he's like, "Who are you? Who are you?" And he's starting to get emotional.
Yeah.
Like he's not just robotic anymore.
I wrote in my notes at this point, because I like to when I'm watching these movies for the purpose of critique or whatever, I like to just sort of check myself, like how am I feeling right now?
Okay.
Like what am I thinking? Like, am I enjoying this? Is this tedious? Have I checked my phone?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one. I had not checked my phone at this point in the movie, but I did write in bold print. I said, "This is a cheese fiesta."
Okay.
And I only usually use the word fiesta when shit's getting silly.
Okay.
So I was just like, okay, this is cheese fiesta. I'm still enjoying it, but it's a little beyond the pale at this point as far as believability.
So what are these? Because we're like cheese and camp and these things. Like, what do they mean when you say them? Like, what do you mean when you say that?
I think that some of that stuff is really it's really tongue in cheek, where even the movie maker knows that it's not realistic.
Yeah,
they
it's
know
deliberately over the top.
Yeah, it's intentionally nuts. And like, if you're, I'm generally not a fan of lots of camp and lots of cheese. Like, for example, if you look at Blade Runner, it has almost none.
Yeah, that's a zero camp.
And that is the type of, that's why I rate it as my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And so things that are cheesy and campy, it takes me out of the story. I like it when things take itself very seriously. Like in Fight Club, it's not campy. Takes, even though
there's humor in Fight Club,
even though there's humorous moments, it's never like it's never trying to be campy. I don't know.
I feel like this, just to keep it in our cyberpunk thing, as this is movie 3, if Escape from New York is the most camp, and Blade Runner is the most serious, I think this movie is like riding a skateboard straight down the middle.
Yeah. If there's a 0 or a 1 and a 10, this is a 5.
Yeah. No, okay, yeah, we're on the same page. I agree. This is a 5 of camp versus serious.
I would have rather it have been like a 3. Because I
so
think,
the 0 is no camp.
Yeah.
Okay, so Blade Runner's 0. And okay.
I would have rather it have been less campy, a little more grim. Like,
I think
a little more existential crisis.
Okay, yeah. I get where you're coming from, and I have similar feelings, but those come at the
later.
End. They come at the later. Yeah.
So yeah, he's recalling further memories. Like, all of this emotional overload is causing him to remember like memories and stuff, and so he goes back to his former home.
No, he goes to the police station first.
Oh, okay.
And he comes in. He goes into like their data servers.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And everyone tries to stop him.
He has the spike interface.
Yeah, it's
which
called
I thought was so dope.
The information spike is what they call it. And that's his USB, right? Like, he has a big fucking chrome spike that comes out of the top of his hand.
Imagine we were all carrying around shanks in order to interface with computers.
Can I plug your phone into my charge or into your charger? And bam, and you slam it down.
That would be so dope.
Yeah, that'd be a much more aggressive. Like when you're in an Uber. Do you have a charger up there? Oh yeah, sure. Bam.
Or like, let me pay you. Shink. Stab. Just like stab their car interface.
Payment received. Thank you for the tip.
Or like how you can pay with your phone by like tapping the thing.
Stabbing is way cooler.
Yeah. Okay, can we make this a thing?
Yeah. Insert your chip or spike here.
Yes. Stab the interface with your phone. All right, this would be dope.
He pulls up the whole gang, right? He gets the facial recognition, which predictive technology, that's basically how that works.
They can do that now. Yeah. The FBI has that.
They didn't do it in 1986. So that's pretty cool. He gets a meal, and then he starts going through his accomplices. He gets to Clarence Bodiger, who's the leader of the gang. He's wanted for a bunch of violent crimes.
What a nerd name.
Yeah, that's part of the... So Clarence Bodiger...
and he wears glasses.
He's a
nerd.
He's... Paul Verhoeven wanted him to resemble Heinrich Himmler.
Oh, okay.
Because he grew up during World War II when the Nazis occupied the Netherlands, and so like that's his ultimate villain is the Nazis, and so he wanted
hard to argue with that.
Yeah, Bodiger to kind of have that sort of banality of evil, sort of these guys are bureaucrats killing.
It's like intelligent evil.
Yeah, that's what Bodiger is.
Okay.
Anyways, he goes through his crimes, gets to the murder of Alex Murphy, and gets Murphy's address.
Okay.
So we go to the house.
Yeah, then he goes to that old house, and he's walking around, and he's just being overloaded with these former memories. He has all these fond memories with his wife and his kid. The kid in the Halloween costume, taking the family selfie with the thing on the the timed photo on the stand, And I thought it was interesting when he entered, there's like a virtual realtor in the empty house. I could see that happening.
Yeah, and they're in the...
but it would be an app, actually. I think.
You'd pull it up on your phone instead of a kiosk. Yeah, and he's in a pretty upscale neighborhood. He's not in Detroit.
Yeah.
He's in the suburbs. And...
And there's like, he's remembering like TJ Laser, and he has this picture, and he ends up crumpling the picture.
A lot of the stuff in I feel like there's a lot of backstory that we don't get about what happened in the years in between Murphy dying and now. Because when you get to the house.
How long was Murphy dead? I mean,
they never tell us.
I think 90 days, right?
No, I think at least a year passes.
Oh, okay.
Because through the montage we get certain time signifiers, including a New Year's.
Oh, okay.
So I think at least a year passed between when Murphy died.
You're right. There was a full montage of them building him, including a New Year's party where the lady kisses him and stuff. Yeah,
and the house doesn't seem like it's done up for sale. There's actually like
dead flowers
and like the picture that he picks up is partially burned, and you really get the impression
it's been a while
and that
like his
there was
wife
a lot
has
of
started over again, and
there was a lot of trauma, right? Like dad got killed, and you lost your husband, and things were thrown away, and they left the house, and like this is a very tough, like, emotional scene, and he starts getting angry, and ultimately he punches out the virtual realtor and storms out of the house, and then goes on a little bit of a vigilante spree. He's a cop, so it's not a vigilante spree.
It's just a little bit of a rampage. We could call him a workaholic.
He goes through and meticulously picks people off the list of known associates.
Yeah, he hunts down. He's hunting down gang members, and he gets kicked in the junk, which is of course metal. The guy hurts his foot. That's pretty great.
Paul Verhoeven gets himself a little cameo as one of the discotheque dancers in this scene.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Gets his Hitchcock moment.
Speaking of, this is totally off topic, except it was my role for initiative. Did you know the actor for Jaime Lannister had a House of the Dragon cameo? He was one of the Targaryen guards.
Was he really?
In the armor, yeah. Pretty cool. He had a big beard, so you
didn't see him,
couldn't place him.
That's Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I like that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. Jamie, he has a great arc.
He has a great arc. Oh God, I want to talk about House of the Dragon. Let's stay focused, because this is going to be a long one. So how long does it? We get somewhere in this scene. This is where my notes get a little bit messy. We get a scene of Clarence Bodiger pays Bob Morton a visit.
Yeah, Bodiger goes into Jones's office. He's a complete asshole to his assistant.
No, that's later. I'm talking when he goes to Bob Morton while he's snorting coke off of models.
Yeah. And there's Morton's having like a typical 80s coke party.
Yeah. I mean, party, it's just 3 people.
That's a party.
I mean, he's making the best of it. I remember
he's living his best life.
I would say so. This is the ultimate goal, right? He's got 2 models. We're doing coke. Champagne is being delivered. He's got the luxury condo. He's, I don't know. This made a big impression on me as a 9-year-old. Like, I was like, this seems like he's having a good time. Like, I don't know what that stuff is that they keep snorting.
It's happy powder.
But it looks like fun. I'm into all of this. Yeah. He's winning. Whatever this is what I want.
Yeah. I mean, if there were hashtags, he would be #winning.
Yeah. #Tiger Blood.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Clarence Bodiger shows up. And he's like, bitches leave. And the ladies run off. And
one's like, are you going to call me?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, whatever.
And so the behind the scenes for this, and Miguel Ferreira, God, I'm never going to get that name right. I'm sorry.
Say Miguel, there's only one.
Okay. Miguel and Kurtwood Smith, that plays Clarence Bodiger, both talk about this scene and about sort of Paul Verhoeven is from the Netherlands, and Josef Vacano, the cinematographer, is German. And so there's a little bit of a language disconnect, even though people in those countries speak English fluently.
Sure.
The vernacular is a little weird. And so...
like the colloquial use.
Yes. And so he's like, and then you say, bitches leave, and then bitches, you leave, and hold on. And then he goes, Joost, should the bitches leave when he says it, or the bitches, should they wait? And then he says... He intimidates them to leave. No, you're right. Bitches just leave. and
He keeps calling them bitches.
And he keeps calling them bitches. And then when it's like, all right, that's a wrap on the bitches. Thank you, bitches. and everyone's just like, ah.
That's offensive.
Yeah, but no one says anything through the whole thing. So anyways, a little behind the scenes humor.
He doesn't get it.
He just didn't seem to get it.
Yeah, he's like, oh, that's what you call ladies like this.
Yeah, these sort of bitches.
I mean, that came back in gangster rap.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
Maybe they were all just fans of Robocop.
I think that pans out. There's a lot of nerdy references in gangster rap of the time. But anyways, Bodiger whips out the DVD, which is not even a thing yet, and plays. He shoots.
I think there were data CDs at the point.
Yeah, there was, but this is something I think they did better. We'll say than Escape from New York, where they're using cassette tapes as the data transfer. The disc is much more futuristic.
Yeah, a data CD makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and Dick sent basically. I told you you were fucked, and blah blah blah. My guy's gonna kill you now, and he pulls a pin out of a grenade with a timer on it. Which, I mean, is that a thing?
Not right now. I mean, there's a static timer that doesn't have a digital readout on.
Yeah,
most grenades.
I feel like these are two different things combined. It's a mashup.
Yeah, this is a future time bomb.
Okay.
Grenade time bomb. It's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I like the prop. It looked futuristic.
It did, and you have that little bit of tension. Can he make it to it before it explodes? Because he's been shot in the legs.
Oh yeah.
He can't, and their grenade just completely blows up his house.
Man.
Yeah. And Robocop just continues getting the people right, and then we get to the cocaine garage or the cocaine warehouse.
There's a wine drinking fancy Italian coke lord.
Yeah, we get a guy called Sal, who I believe is part of what we call an Italian American fraternal organization.
Yes.
And he has a cocaine factory.
Sons of Columbus or whatever.
He has a cocaine factory.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Detroit automated line, but it seems inefficient. Like I feel like there's a lot of wasted cocaine.
I was thinking the same thing too. There's a lot of waste in this cocaine factory.
Yeah, what you've lost in manual cost, you're losing also in cocaine that is not making it into the vials.
Yeah, and they're using like little glass vials, which that's interesting.
That's very upscale, right? Instead of those little
plastic baggies.
The little plastic baggies, which, just sidebar, there was a taco cart that gave you salsa in the little dope bags.
Nice.
And I always just thought, like, when he's like, do you want red or green salsa? And I was like, both. And he gives them to me in little dope bags. And I'm like, well, this is highly unusual. That's not usually what comes in these. Not that I would know.
Yeah, so this is a showdown between this Italian guy Sal and
Clarence.
And Clarence, yeah. And they're just trying to play tough guy with each other, and there's weapons drawn.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to set up like, oh, who controls the crime in this area? Yeah. And he's like, oh, you don't know who I am, blah blah blah.
And this is much of the Clarence Bodiger character is improvised.
Okay.
Because he's very generic goon in the script, and Kurtwood Smith was given a lot of leeway to give him personality. And this is one of those scenes
kind of reminds me a lot of like Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yeah, and I can see that because he's a chinery chewer,
Yeah,
right? Like,
for sure.
Because this whole thing where he drums on the table, he's like guns, guns, guns.
Yeah,
And
that really reminded me of the Joker.
yeah. He dips his fingers in the guy's glass of wine and then snorts them.
And then the guy drinks the wine
Right?
after the other dude had put his fingers in it.
This whole
For
scene
me,
is-
that's a deal breaker. You dip your fingers in my drink,
Dump
that's
it.
your drink.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, come on, Sal, the Lions are playing tonight, and I never miss a game. And this is a fun scene. And then cartoonishly, the door gets beat down by Robocop.
Yeah.
It literally, like, it bends in multiple times as he's punching it, and
It's
he punches
like
it
the
in.
big bad wolf huffing and puffing.
Yeah. And then he comes in, and in standard 80s fashion, anyone involved in the drug trade is expendable.
Yeah.
And he just dispatches everyone.
Yeah, they all pull rifles on him and whatnot, and they're shooting him. It's just bouncing off, and he's just killing them. Brah, brah, brah. Just
And he does some fun shots too, right?
Sure.
Where he's like points over here and he's like and shoots over his shoulder and kills a guy.
yeah.
This is just this is a little bit like the scene where the Batmobile goes into the
Exactly.
the Ajax chemicals or whatever and blows everything
There's
up.
definitely illusions.
Yeah.
And this was before that.
This is
right?
before
Yeah.
Batman, yeah. It's all building. They all build on each other.
Gotham and Detroit, they got some stuff in common.
That's true. And he basically eliminates everyone but Clarence Bodiger, who he has a little fun with tossing him through windows and stuff.
Oh yeah, he brutally assaults him and throws him through 3 different windows.
Yeah.
And then Boddicker confesses that he works for Jones. He's like, I work for Jones, who's OCP, and they own the cops, and you're a cop.
Yeah, and that triggers one of his prime directives because he's literally crushing Clarence Bodiger's head in his hand, and he's like, "You're a cop," and then that uphold the law directive pops up, and he's like, "I am a cop," and he arrests him instead of murdering him.
And he takes him down to the police station. He's like, book him. What's the charge?
He's a cop killer.
Yeah. I was like, okay, because he killed Murphy.
Yeah.
That's the cop he killed.
And 31 others. Like, he's killed a lot of cops. And so this is another improvised Kurtwood Smith scene. He's just supposed to say, "Give me my phone call," and he goes, What if I spit blood on the counter and said, "Give me my fucking phone call"? And Paul Verhoeven, lover of cartoonish violence, goes, "You want to spit blood?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yeah, Paul Verhoeven is an interesting dude.
Oh yeah, he is a real weirdo, and he loves the cartoonish violence. It's he just any opportunity. It's like, does the violence go to 11? Let's do it. He just always wants to take it over the top.
Yeah, he wants to make things just extra.
Yeah.
In all ways.
And so Robocop goes after Dick Jones.
He's gonna go arrest Jones at OCP Tower.
And Jones is watching the little GPS tracker the whole time.
Yeah, it's very ahead of its time, having a little digital readout of where someone's going.
Yeah, he has location sharing on
with Robocop.
with Robocop, and he just watches him coming. And Clarence calls him for his one phone call, and he gets sort of like the annoyed dad, like, "I'm very disappointed in you,
messed up.
but of course I'll get you out of jail, son." Because you kind of get you start to really get what their whole deal is. I guess it's the next scene with them where they really kind of lay out their plans. But Robocop goes to arrest Dick Jones. And
he's really got like kind of a shit-eating grin. Like he's like, "Oh,
can I help you, officer?" Doing that whole thing. And he's like, "You're under arrest." He's like, "What's the charge?" He's like, "Aiding and abetting a known felon." And he's like, "Well, I guess you better take me in." And he holds up his hands like to get the cuffs slapped on. And when Robocop gets over there, he can't do it. Directive 4 kicks in. Directive 4 prohibits him from acting against an OCP executive.
Yeah, and so basically Jones villain splains at that point, and then he opens up, unleashes ED-209.
Yeah, he confesses to killing Bob Morton.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and it's on camera.
Yeah, because everything that RoboCop sees is on camera.
Yeah, it's a total villain monologue in the moment, and then he unleashes Ed-209 to kill RoboCop.
And Ed-209 does blast the shit out of RoboCop, but RoboCop gets his licks in. He rips an arm off.
Yeah, and as it turns out, there's a fatal design flaw in Ed-209. He can't use stairs.
Oh, this is one of my favorite scenes, Ed-209, because all it says this is one of those things where all it said in the script was that he can't walk down the stairs, and Phil Tippett just takes it to the next level, like where he comes in and it like
tries to put a foot down.
His big foot, he tests it and then finally thinks he's got it and then tumbles down and ends up on his back.
Like, have you ever seen a puppy that has never experienced stairs?
It's totally that.
It's exactly that.
It's exactly that. And he imbues a personality into the Ed-209 robot.
It's already kind of animalistic in the way that it growls, and then when it falls on its back, it's pig squealing.
Yeah, it goes, and so RoboCop gets away. But when he gets downstairs, all the cops from his precinct are there, and all the cops from one of the other precincts, one of the more funded precincts, is there. I guess the ones from the nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the cops from his precinct don't want to shoot him, but the cops from the other precinct that were involved in the hostage situation that he intervened in light him up. They just all start blasting him.
Yeah.
And it kind of mirrors the scene when Clarence Bodiger and his gang killed him. So now he's been shot up by the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah, and basically he's like running away, and he's jumping down these levels at the parking garage, and eventually
he's falling down the levels, right?
Yeah.
Like he's crawling and like tumbling off the floors.
And eventually Lewis pulls up, opens the door, and RoboCop gets in. They drive off. And then it kind of cuts to a commercial.
Yeah,
there's like dinosaurs coming along, and I was like, I think young Nick must have loved this commercial.
I love that dinosaur so much. I love that dinosaur so much. And then, so that dinosaur, just so for some of the background, is a little bit of a proof of concept because so there's a movie that came out in the 2000s called Dinosaur that is a CG animated movie that Disney did.
Okay.
The initial script existed then in the 80s. And Paul Verhoeven was interested in directing it with Phil Tippett stop motion animating it. And it was going to be sort of like a full on, all dinosaur, no dialogue, stop motion animated, like art film that they were going to do, which obviously that never got made. When Disney eventually made it, it's CG and the dinosaurs talk. But for a brief moment, there was a weird dialogue-free stop-motion dinosaur art film that was going to get made, and this little commercial is the proof of concept to it.
And it's ultimately a car commercial for the 6000 SUX.
Yeah, that's the car. It gets 7 miles to the gallon.
That's the car.
It's what Clarence Bodiger drives.
And this is an ape on the Pontiac 6000. They were saying the 6000 sucks. Like they were making fun of that particular Pontiac, which I think is interesting to do. And like in the show, the car never actually looks very cool.
No, because
it's like kind of a boat of a sedan.
Isn't it like just an Oldsmobile with some like a trim kit on it?
It's exactly that. It's an Oldsmobile with a trim kit.
Yeah.
It does not ever look cool.
A lot of
the cars in Blade Runner looked a lot cooler than the cars in this movie.
This movie has a $10,000 budget.
$10 million.
Or $10 million. Yeah, $10 million. I'm sorry. I'm bad with numbers. But
how much was the budget for Blade Runner? I mean, it can't have been so ridiculously much higher. But these cars all looked pretty cheesy. It was $30 million.
Yeah, so 3 times the budget.
3 times. But they also had Han Solo.
Yeah. So this was a very low budget film. Because it's an R-rated kind of gore splattered action movie. It's not the sort of thing you give someone, because a $30 million movie in the 80s is like $120 million movie now.
Sure.
It's a lot more money.
So it goes from the commercial to Boddicker is entering the messed up OCP building.
Right. He goes right up to Dick Jones's office he's wearing a yuppie suit.
Yeah, and that's when he's shitty to the assistant, which I think being a misogynist asshole was part and parcel for the 80s.
It is. And that is Kurtwood Smith's actual wife.
Is it?
Yeah. They weren't married yet, they were just dating, but that is his wife that plays the receptionist there.
Huh.
And these are, again, he's just improvising. He's going in there. So his whole thing where he takes his gum out of his mouth and sticks it on her name tag and just all of his sleazy stuff, that's just him playing asshole.
Wow. He's just shitty. I guess it's good acting because he evokes dislike.
You watch him and you're like, what a fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
And you're just amazed that this guy who's a known felon and is considered the crime boss of old Detroit just walks in to the office without an appointment, and it's just fine.
Yeah. And so basically, like, at this point, he they have this discussion, and I thought it was great when he asks him, he's like, do we have military tech? And he's like, we practically are the military.
Yeah. OCP has
problem.
They just run everything.
They're just Amazon. Or are they Google? Or are they both?
Yeah. The line gets very thin. They're one of these corporations after several of them have merged together.
Yeah.
So they get him the tech, and he kind of lays out the scheme where essentially OCP behind the scenes has been using crime to destroy the city so that they can completely destroy the city, rebuild their new city, and then they're going to profit off of the crime as the criminals are now selling drugs and vice to the workers who are building the new city. And it's like OCP is making money coming and going on everything through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Diabolical, man. Like, but
sounds about right.
That's about how shit works.
Sounds about Dick Cheney.
Mm-hmm. It's that kind of thing. Yeah, totally.
And so then it cuts over to Robocop in the steel mill.
Yeah, we went back to the steel mill. It might be a traumatic place for you, but it's a pretty cool filming location, so we're using it again.
Yeah, and Lewis brings him a cordless drill and a socket.
And his gun and baby food.
Yes. And he takes these long-ass bolt screw things out of the sides of his temples. Mm-hmm. Those things would have gone all the way in.
Yeah.
They're gnarly.
It's pretty wild. It's very, again, that visceral word, right? Like you when you watch that, you imagine having a screw.
How deep they
both
go
those
in.
Screws would nearly be touching.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's wild. And he says, you might want to look away. You might not like what you see. Takes off the helmet, and we see Murphy's face for the first time.
And he's Darth Vader.
It is like he has a full-on robot skull with Murphy's face stretched over
across,
it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough to look at.
It's very Darth Vader without the helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just thought that was pretty cool.
And she shows him the mirror, and he asks her, he goes, he hasn't quite merged the identities yet, right? Because he goes, Murphy had a wife and son. What happened to them? And she just tells him,
they started over.
She thought you were dead. They've moved on. Like, basically, you're going to have to let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's feeling some type of way about all this stuff. Like,
sure.
Because he says that he can feel them, but he can't remember them. Because remember, he got shot through the head. Like, so his brain's not all in one piece.
No.
But he has like these shadows of memories and these emotions. Like he's just trying to build a new identity out of his Swiss cheese brain.
Yeah.
And he's having a tough time. But we don't have to think about feelings for too long because Clarence Bodiger shows up with the gang and their weapons.
Well,
I kind of brushed over a few things.
Yeah, I think just a little cut scene where we learn that the OCP cops have actually finally gone on strike.
Right.
Detroit fully descends into chaos. Riots are breaking loose. We get a little more of that. I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah.
Show as the goons are practicing with the assault cannon on the street.
Yeah.
So we see these cool, what are actually sniper rifles. They look like Barrett 50 calibers, and they're shooting explosions.
Yeah, they're just blowing shit up. And so they very similar to Escape from New York. They shot this stuff in a neighborhood in Dallas where the whole block is going to be razed. And so you can do whatever to these buildings because we're knocking them down anyway.
Yeah.
And then they started blowing shit up. And they really started blowing shit up, like big city shaking explosions.
Nice.
And started getting complaints like, what are you doing? Like, and you're like, you said we could blow shit up. We're blowing shit up.
Yeah, we're making a movie, dude.
Yeah. And they went way over the top. The goons ended up getting stunt pay because the explosions were so extreme, and
Wow.
they were the explosions got closer to them than you're allowed to do with face actors. And so they had to give them stunt bonuses and stuff. And
Interesting.
yeah, it's a very over the top, crazy scene.
I guess that's why they went over budget by $3 million.
Probably because they blew up a whole neighborhood in Dallas.
Yeah.
And Lewis helps Robocop recalibrate his targeting system. That was the other thing, because he can't, like, his arm isn't matching with what his eyes are seeing, and so she kind of helps him, guides him, gets them relined up just in time for the goons to arrive.
Yeah, and they show up at the steel mill, and I'm thinking, like, as I'm watching this, I really like the scarred and gnarly Robocop better. It's kind of like a Mad Max cyborg look. Like he's all like got this battle damage, and I just think he looks really cool. I mean,
it's one of the reasons I think that it was so hard for them to make sequels work. Because he goes on such a satisfying arc over the course of this movie where he sort of, as robo pieces are torn away, his humanity is increased. And Basil Podoros' score is reflecting this too, right? Where it was a very synth score early on when he's introduced as Robocop, and it's become a symphonic score with a full orchestra as more and more of Murphy has been revealed.
it's a little more human.
Yeah, and so where this movie ends here pretty soon is so satisfying that when you come into RoboCop 2 and we've backpedaled a bit and he's a little more robotic and he's put back together and you've undone some of this journey, you're like, no, we were further down the road than this when the last movie ended, and it feels unsatisfying. So I think that's part of why this is done so well that when you try to backpedal, it feels like you're taking something away.
All right, I can see that.
Yeah.
So basically, not to gloss over it too much, this action scene at the end is pretty unremarkable. They're shooting assault cannons at him.
Yeah.
They don't ever really hit him.
Looking for me?
Yeah, they never hit him. He shoots them.
Yeah.
One of the guys gets away and kind of runs around and gets a sniper position, and they end up dropping...
Don't brush over the coolest thing that happens in the whole movie.
Oh.
When Emil crashes his van into the vat of toxic waste.
Oh, yeah, and we get a Toxic Avenger moment.
And we get a Toxic Avenger moment, and he runs around while he's melting.
Yeah.
And he goes up to the one guy that's kind of like the sleazy guy of the gang, and he's like, "Oh, get away from me!" And eventually, Clarence runs him over with the car,
and he explodes like a bag of shit. Just boom.
And
not like a person.
No, just all liquid. And that's what Clarence said. He goes, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
when he drives through it.
That cool car just got covered in toxic remains.
I just it's a steel foundry. Why does it have like a 2-story vat of toxic waste? Like, what toxic waste is produced? I mean, besides just like the heavy metals, right? Like the lead and cadmium and all that stuff that gets into the soil. That's toxic waste, certainly.
But it's not going to do that.
It wouldn't do that to you.
It's not radioactive.
It would give you like cancer over time.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't turn you into like a walking blob. But whatever. This is just a wonderful moment in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, but
and so then they get a crane lifts holding a whole bunch of steel girders and whatnot. They end up dropping it. Clarence drops it on Robocop and he's like, yeah. And he has his villain moment. He goes down there and he gets stabbed with a data spike.
Well, you're brushing over a few things. So one, Clarence shoots up Lewis, right?
Sure.
So she's down, but heavily wounded. Mm-hmm. The other goon is up in the crane. He drops the steel girders. Lewis shoots him with the assault cannon.
Yeah.
Blows him up, and then she kind of passes out or whatever. Robocop comes out. This is important to the Christ metaphor. He's shown walking on water. Because he comes out there. This is sort of his miracle, one of his miracle moments, right? Then he drops the girders on him, and then Clarence comes up.
I just thought it was a super shallow puddle.
Visually, he's not literally walking on water, but he's shown walking on water. And then Clarence pierces him with the spear, which is another big part of the Christ myth. And
we should do an episode of that.
Where we just
the Christ myth,
just about Jesus. We should
the Passion of the Christ.
We could do a top 10 Jesus movies.
Oh God,
we'd get a very strange audience.
Yeah, our loyal 50 would go away.
I don't know. I feel like you would get some people that are interested in theology into it, and then people that are interested in deconstructing theology.
Yeah,
this is the whole thing. Yeah, top 10 Jesus movies.
All right.
We'll look that up. But I stepped on your toes there.
No,
he stabs him with the data spike finally. Yeah. And then, Lewis says, "Murphy, I'm a mess." and this is a Peter Weller improv. He's just like, he has this great delivery. He's like, "They'll fix you. They fix everything." And he sounds like so resigned and depressed, like, because he is a Frankenstein, right? Yeah. Like he's Murphy, but he's not, and but he still has a mission. He still has things he needs to do, so he pushes the girders off of himself. Yeah, and it's just such a good delivery. And then he goes to the OCP office.
And he brings an autocannon.
He does, because there's Ed 209 guarding the door, and he just blasts it.
Yeah.
And there's a really fun moment where it walks around and falls down.
With no torso, it's just legs.
Yeah, and its little foot flicks for a little while. Yeah. And it's like, that's that extra Phil Tippett magic where he puts that
kind of reminded me of Jurassic Park,
Phil Tippett, before CG, early on, Phil Tippett was attached to do Jurassic Park, do the dinosaur effects.
Interesting.
Which we would think very differently about that movie if it was all stop motion. Like, it would become much more of a, wow, that was a really cool movie, but not like what it was.
Yeah.
Which was a, wow, I've never seen anything like that.
For sure. It was a whole different world at that point.
And he goes up to the boardroom and he lays it out. He wants to arrest Dick Jones, but his programming won't allow him to do it.
So he has to put a video on the monitors.
Pops out the information spike. It still has blood all over it, which is so epic. Jams it in there. He doesn't get the water in the USB message that you would get with a bloody interface. And and he plays the video of Dick Jones confessing to murdering Bob Morton.
I had to kill Morton because he messed up or because he got in the way.
He
or
made
whatever.
a mistake. Yeah. Now it's time to erase that mistake. And the old man, he takes the old man hostage, brings out the Desert Eagle again, puts it to his head. And the old man says, Dick, you're fired.
And then, bam.
Yeah, Robocop shoots him out the window. He turns into a really bad puppet for a little bit.
That was they should have deleted that scene.
The puppet is its arms are so long. That
was the worst corpse puppet ever.
It is really weird. And I watched, Phil Tippett didn't do that puppet. It's the guy that did the matte paintings that did that puppet.
Huh.
And I watched a behind the scenes thing where he was talking about, he's very proud of the scene. I think because he probably did the painting that the guy's falling into. And he's just talking about it, what an accomplishment it is. And he's got the puppet there, still has it. And its arms are twice the length of a human man's arms. They're so long. And I'm like, you don't see the arms? They're like chimp arms. It's what?
Yeah, that looked so bad.
Yeah. And then Murphy spins the gun, holsters it. The old man says, that's pretty fancy shooting, son. What's your name? He turns, says, Murphy. Credits. Movie's done.
Yeah.
Paul Verhoeven said he went to a screening in Harlem where there was lots of ethnic people and a very rowdy audience. And before he says it, the entire audience says, Murphy. And it was the greatest moment of my whole cinematic career.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So that's RoboCop, man. That's it.
I still don't like the old man. I still think he sucks.
It's so funny. It totally worked on me as a kid that I thought the old man was good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch this now and you look at how he reacts to Kenny getting killed. Doesn't care at all.
It's the same thing when Dick Jones gets killed. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
I've worked with Dick for 30 years.
No, and Johnson is the same way. He's like, well, since Bob is dead and Dick is dead, I'm basically the Dick now. And he gives RoboCop the thumbs up. And then he's in the next two movies. He does, he makes his way up to senior vice president because of these guys getting killed. He's just sat there and grinned his way to the number 2 spot with people getting murdered in front of him.
All right, so I think we take a break and we come back. Or no, we do these first. Let's
take a break because I want to pee.
All right.
Okay, welcome back, divers. So, Dave, what worked for you?
All right, so like you said before, the storytelling is really tight. Mm-hmm. There is not a lot of wiggle here. There are not very many garbage scenes that were extremely cuttable. This had a really nice pace. Mm-hmm. Everything worked together. The sets, the lines, the story beats, everything felt super intentional. Mm-hmm. And it was all just really... It was really cohesive. This isn't one that was like a rambling thing.
No, it's the opposite of a Repo Man where we shot a bunch of shit and let's cobble it together into a movie.
Yeah, this is super tight, super cohesive. I think that the writing was extremely intentional and the directing was really good. I enjoyed the decisions that he made. Mm-hmm. So how about you? What worked for you?
My first thing I have is the social satire. I think that Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner and Paul Verhoeven, with what he brought into that, more accurately predicted the future that we live in than just about anything else. We live in a world that looks very similar to RoboCop's, especially with the surveillance state and all of this stuff and certain things that go on with law enforcement. This is much more like Blade Runner set in 2019. and it looks like something that's far in the future. This is set in 2043, and it looks like it's set, 5 years ago or more. You know what I mean? Like, it's much more the world we actually live in. The special effects, Rob Bottin's Robocop suit and Phil Tippett's stop motion animation. I just think all this stuff is iconic. And Basil Pordoris's score. I'm such a huge fan of him. He did the score for the Conan the Barbarian movies. And he's one of my favorite film score composers. So I don't know that this is his best score, but I just like him so much that when I hear his sort of signature motifs, I recognize it as like, oh, this is Paul Doris. No one else sounds like this. So I love the music. What didn't work for you?
So I think this was like the Highlander TV show. It was much better in my memory than it was in my rewatch.
Ouch.
So I remember it being like a golden vision of an amazing action movie. Mm-hmm. And in my rewatch, it was just corny as fuck. And I mean, it ended with that puppet falling, and I was like, yeah.
That all fit.
That really sums it up for me. It's that fucking puppet.
Okay.
And then the old man that you're supposed to like, oh, some fancy shooting, son. What's your name?
Yeah.
It's like, how about fucking off? Like that. I mean, like, I really felt it was tropey. Mm-hmm. It was a million things rolled into one. It was Frankenstein. It was a knight in shining armor. It was a superhero, which means it was not very original. Because these two writers who wrote it together were students of the classics. Yeah. These guys know the business. They're from the business. Right. And they collaborated to make this a really tight story that draws on tropes that you're going to know and love, which is the opposite of creativity. And so they really were on the nose with a lot of stuff that was it was like one of those things where it's like scientifically designed to make you react. Right. It's like, yeah, you reference Jesus and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, cool. How about making something up of your own? Because it wasn't that interesting. I just think that there are no story turns. It's just super linear. It's just a revenge story. It's a Frankenstein gets revenge. Yeah. And I just thought that I shouldn't have rewatched this movie.
Ooh, wow.
How about you? What didn't work?
I got two things. The movie ostensibly is set in 2043.
It looks like it's in 1989.
Yeah. It is not futuristic at all. And I know that's a budget thing, and so they create the futuristic part through mood and through societal, the commercials and stuff. Nothing is shown. When you see, it's like, oh, this is just a depressed block in Dallas, Texas. Nothing looks like it's in the future. So I think it's better if you don't know what year it's supposed to be. Like if you just think the near future and imagine it's in 1989 instead of 1986. But it's supposed to be 20 years in the future from now. And it just doesn't look like it. And then number two, there is sort of like this element of propaganda to the movie. Yeah. Where, Michael Miner described it as fascism for liberals. Like it's a movie with a liberal bias that gives them this sort of authoritarian violence, like the state-sanctioned righteous violence or whatever. And like, that as time has gone on and my viewpoints have evolved, this becomes more distasteful to me. Yeah. And so when I watch it now, I was like, I'd like a little bit more of a critical assessment of law enforcement and due process, because I've seen no due process in this movie.
No, it's mostly murder.
Yeah. Robocop just dispenses violence for the state and we cheer. And I want to interrogate that. So there's things I feel like it could have gone deeper on, like things that I would want what I would want the sequel to focus on is to go into the transhumanist stuff. Like, what is the nature of humanity? What makes you you? Is he Murphy? Is he a new being that's made out of Murphy?
Did 209 have feelings?
Does it? I mean, it
seemed like it was in distress.
It's almost like not human self-aware, but it is. It does seem like an animal. Yeah. Like it has a pretty sophisticated AI, but not to a human level. But it does seem to experience emotions too. Yeah,
and pain and all that.
And so, like, those are the sort of questions that I would want to explore, and I just don't think anyone was interested in getting into those.
It was a little bit more of an action flick than that.
So that's my thoughts on it. I guess what's your rating?
So I was a little torn on this.
Did you look at all the Metacritic and all that stuff
after I rated it?
Oh, okay.
I always do that after I rate it.
You want to get your true opinion before you're biased.
Yeah. So I was okay. So part of me was like, there are some super fun parts of this movie, and I love the way Robocop looks, and I love the performance, the intentional movements, and there are some high highs and some low lows in this movie.
You really dock a lot of points for things that I think are intentional, though, with the over the top.
Then that means I didn't like it, right?
Yeah.
If you intentionally did something and I didn't like it, it's fair that I downgrade it.
Okay.
If it's an accident or a budgetary concern, like I didn't bring up the fact that the block in Dallas that they were blowing up looked like it was from the 70s, and there was no effort made to modernize it.
Not at all.
None, because I understood that was just a set that it was a budgetary thing. Whereas if I compare it to Blade Runner, where every street set looks like the future,
right?
That's a budget thing. So I didn't even bring that up.
Right.
But the things that they intentionally did that I disliked,
right,
I can validly criticize that.
Okay.
So I think this was a movie of high highs and low lows for me. So I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I wouldn't have felt good giving it a 2. I also don't think it warranted a 4.
Ooh, see, I think it's better than a 4, but I've spent like the last week trying to talk myself into a 5 and never been able to get there. Like I've just been like, because I want, this
5 has to mean something,
right? And this is where we've taken away the fractions so that we force ourselves to make real decisions. And I would have given this probably the 4 1/4 or the something that's to let it, because I think this movie holds up beautifully, and it's something I've gotten more out of this movie every time I've watched it. And I've watched it infinity times. So it's like, it's a strong 4 from me.
Okay. So that's good. I mean, then that puts us very close with IMDb and Metacritic. IMDb gives it a 7.6. Metacritic gives it a 70. Rotten Tomato is in love with it. They give it a 91. All I know is I want a leg holster
in your actual
leg with a machine pistol.
All right. Well, we'll get on that. We'll get to the Ripper Doc and just get that set up. All right. So we already took our late breaks. So I think it's time for that final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
All right, so I went to. I mean, what I've been doing lately is I've been watching a lot of shows. I'm not like a. I have certain shows I like, and when a new season comes out, I just watch those things. Right now, there just happens to be like 4 or 5 shows I really like What We Do in the Shadows, Reservation Dogs, Alone Frozen, House of the Dragon. But that's not what I wanted to bring up, because I went to Las Vegas for a music festival, Psycho Las Vegas.
I was wondering when you were going to bring this up.
Saw like 20 bands or something like that. There were like over 100 showing, but you just can't watch them all. And so I wanted to just feature one band that I could point the divers to, that I think has a lot of a broad appeal.
Okay.
It is a band from Denver, Colorado called Dreadnought.
Oh, okay.
Dreadnought is excellent band. They have kind of a hard to describe genre because they're very diverse with things like they have heavy doomy parts they also have lots of atmospheric sounds because they have a keyboard player. They have dual vocals, two front women. They'll sing harmonies together, and then one of them also does like screaming grim vocals. And so sometimes they'll do like grim plus clean or back and forth. They're heavy and they're melodic, and it's sometimes hypnotic, sometimes grooving and making you bob your head. Some of it's head bangable, some of it is just space out. Super great band. I've played live with this band a couple of times at a couple of different festivals with Barrellands. So I know these guys. I have a couple of Dreadnought shirts. Been a fan for a while. Seeing them live was great. It always is. But their most recent album called The Endless came out this year, and it's really, really good. I definitely think everyone should check that out. And if you're looking them up online, there's another band called Dreadnought from Australia that is easy to confuse them with. So if you just look up Dreadnought Denver, you'll either get their regular website, or I recommend going to Bandcamp, dreadnoughtdenver.bandcamp.com, because then you can buy stuff directly from the band. They get all the revenue, which is huge for a touring act like Dreadnought. And they're just super good. And if you like their most recent album, The Endless, you'll find a back catalog of 5 more releases that you can enjoy. So it's totally worth your time if you're a fan of heavy music, but you also value like mood, melody, some clean vocals. It's kind of the total package.
Yeah, like thrash, death, doom,
super hybrid.
Yeah, thrash, death, doom, space rock.
It's not super thrashy, the newer album, but it's definitely got that vein of death, like melodic death metal, European style, doomy atmospheres. Super good.
I like Dreadnought. I thought you were going to say Boris, but
Boris is another favorite. That was Carrie's probably top band there, but also she's a huge Dreadnought fan.
Yeah,
Boris was amazing. If you've never checked out Japanese noise,
experimental
doom metal,
rock,
experimental
punk rock,
thrash, everything,
ambient.
They've been around for 30 years. This is their 30th anniversary tour they're doing right now, and Boris from Japan they're legends, and this was a really special tour because they brought in a touring drummer. So their drummer, who is also their vocalist, is a front man. He's not behind the kit, and he is a fucking rock star. Everywhere around the stage, he was stage diving and crowd surfing, the full like theatrical posing. When you think about super theatrical frontmen, you might think of King Diamond from Merciful Fate, who I just saw. No, Boris, better. It was like for sure the best live performance of the weekend was Boris for me.
They're a really good band. That was what, because every day you would post on Facebook, you'd post your itinerary for the day and circle your bands.
Yeah.
And then I would go through and look at the bands that I would rather see than the ones that you circled.
There's always a few.
And and I think ultimately this is borne out. You circled Mayhem, and I thought you should probably go see And They'll Know Us by the Trail of Dead.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up being right. You didn't like Mayhem that much.
They weren't very good live.
You should have watched Trail of Dead.
That's probably true. Attila was just dreadful.
You're not into that?
No. He was wearing like a Crimson Ghost costume with some plastic bones. He looks like he mugged a Spirit Halloween store.
I think that's just always been his vibe,
though.
I like. You always see pictures of him with a big goofy knife, with one of those super serrated giant knives and stuff.
Controversial opinion, the original vocalist for Mayhem, Maniac, he was the best. Even better than Dead, even better than Attila. There is no single consensus in the black metal community.
Who is the vocalist on Death Crush Armageddon?
That's Maniac.
Okay, I agree with you.
So yeah, but he's not on De Mysterious, which is their most famous album. That's Dead.
Yeah, no, I I'm with you. Maniac is the one. That's the guy. I agree.
All right, cool. So what are you into right now?
So I'm into a new show that's on Hulu. The whole season is out, so you can just binge this.
Nice.
It's called This Fool. In their own words, the series centers on Julio Lopez, a punk-ass bitch with a heart of gold, who goes out of his way to help everyone but himself. It's inspired by the life and stand-up of series co-creator and real-life punk-ass bitch Chris Estrada, and it's a cinematic half-hour comedy. It's essentially like an Odd Couple sitcom, where so we have Julio Lopez and his primo, who's fresh out of the joint, Luis, and Julio works at a what do you call it? Like a nonprofit organization that helps former gang members rehabilitate themselves and re-enter society.
Okay.
It's called Hugs Not Thugs.
Okay.
And so he gets his cousin involved in this program, and there's friction between them, and it's got like just a really great, colorful cast of characters. Julio's on again, off again girlfriend Maggie's played by Michelle Ortiz. And Jamar Malachi Neighbors plays a cupcake chef named Percy Williams, who's a hilarious character. And this is a show, I'd say in a similar vein to like a Reservation Dogs, where it's, I've talked about this before, the hyper specificity of this East LA sort of Chicano culture, but then also universal hilarious stories. Like,
all right,
it's very culturally specific, but I don't think you don't have to be from the community to understand the humor, and I think these are sort of universal stories. And I binged the whole season.
How many episodes are there?
I think it was just 10 episodes.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it was
10's good.
And they're not long episodes because it's very sitcom-y,
I mean,
right?
I could kill that tonight.
You could just the first episode, while they set everything up, is the bumpiest one, and then every episode after is funnier. As you know how a sitcom like this, the humor builds because the in jokes get deeper as episode to episode, like The Office does this, right?
Oh yeah, for
you know
sure.
what I mean? So it's
like Reservation Dogs does that.
The longer you watch it, the funnier it is because the more layers to the jokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoy that kind
and
of
the whole
thing.
thing about him being a punk ass bitch, there's a double entendre because he's like a rocker dude, so he is a punk.
Oh, okay.
But also he tells this story in the first episode about a drug deal gone awry with his cousin, and the guy he's telling it to who's another gang member that's fresh out of the joint. He's like, "No offense, my boy, but you come off like a punk ass bitch in that story." And he goes, the life expectancy of a gangster is only 25 years old. The life expectancy of a punk ass bitch is 76. and like that was in the trailer for the show, and I just like fell over laughing at that line, and I was like, I have to watch this, and then I watched all of it.
That makes sense.
All right,
that sounds like a really funny show. I think I'm gonna check it out, at least a couple episodes.
At least, yeah. Get through the first one because it's the first episode of any sitcom is just setting up the premise.
Yeah, every show, like even like House of the Dragon, you know?
Yeah, the first one's always like, here is all, let me show you my whole chessboard. Mm-hmm. And then you start moving the pieces around.
Exactly. It's like Cyvass.
Like Cyvass, yeah. All right, call to action.
Subscribe to us on your favorite podcatcher, as well as YouTube, Spotify, and Audible. Don't forget to leave us a review. A 5-star review costs you nothing, but means everything to us.
New episodes of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse drop the 1st and 15th of every month, and you can find us on all social media platforms across the metaverses at Deep Dive the Meta. We are on Twitter, which Dave prefers. We are on Instagram, which I like, but we are still on Pinterest, which no one likes.
Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.